Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Robinson, David Wayne Foster, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Owen Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik 86, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life Is Short, Maria Neelands, Matt, Michael, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Tar Craig, Renee, Rob H, Sally Ballis, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Herkins, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So a massive shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a few people in Discord and G+, so I'll raise the mic on them and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Right, I'm done now. Finished the intro.
Okay.
Hello. How you doing, Nathan?
You just finished the intro, so.
Yesterday, I believe that was a Rumpus disaster. I don't think anybody could put the word age-wise.
So say that again. Yesterday, what did Rumpus do?
Wasn't yesterday that Rumpus and Nathan had...
That was, I think, unorthodox.
Was it unorthodox? Maybe
Rumpus
was long show.
Rumpus was the day before.
Oh, the day before. Okay, yeah. And I was trying to, not to intervene, but was waiting for the space to ask my question to Rumpus. But I just kind of ran out of time. I had to bail out. But the question I was trying to ask him is, and to understand what he sees in the Black Swan picture. And my idea of what he sees is arbitrary point between the bottom of a picture to a horizon where he says the geometric horizon would have been, and the rest would be sort of looming above geometric horizon. Is that my understanding of what he's trying to claim?
Yeah, he's claiming everything's refracted.
Right. So if that's the case, then how would one determine a radius of the sphere we allegedly stand on?
Yeah, that's the essence of the Black Swan argument and why it's so devastating. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make, Nathan, is when you guys go, and it's not a critique at all. It's just, I mean, present audience excluded. But when you guys get into quote unquote weeds of the argument, even me myself sometimes lose the essence of the argument. Is that if the horizon, a position of horizon, is variable, right? Because I mean, it depends on the weather conditions and all that jazz. There could have been no way humanity would have known, number one, that we're on a sphere, number two, the radius of it, which means we could not have calculated anything to do with alleged space travel means the whole thing is a disaster.
Yeah, that's correct. That's another aspect of things that also fall to pieces without the R value giving them a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon. It must be
Yeah,
their
there goes all the
horizon.
distances through.
Yeah, that's all
Sorry,
out.
go
That's
ahead.
all out the window. Correct.
Yeah, my ask would be, if possible, at all, is to sort of conclude every time you guys talk about this the black swan or arguments like that, is to roll it back to the essence of it, to why it is important to understand that if horizon, as we observe, is arbitrary point, how on earth could anybody claim in the history of mankind that, number one, what we're standing on is a sphere, and number two, the radius of it? Like, there's just no way to do that. And I think that would, and I'm asking you not so for selfish reasons, so to speak. I have a relative, and that's a pain I want to share with the community. His brother, my dear brother, my twin, he's on the other side of the argument, and it's impossible to. It's like me talking to Rampus or unorthodox. It's they sit on in their beliefs without understanding the argument that we putting forth. They just refuse to understand, and the only rebuttal that I hear is, you think you're the smartest, or you think you're more intelligent than all the scientists and all the people before you. And it's like, no, listen. We're talking about just the things we can observe, right? And what it tells us. And I just can't get through to him and people like him. I mean, other people I don't really care about. He's my relative. I'm trying to figure out the way I can punch a hole through his cognitive dissonance. And I'm just not able to. I'm failing badly.
It's not your fault. And I have the same experience with individuals like that myself, my own brother as well. So it's not an
It's
issue
painful.
of proving, it's not an issue that I or you cannot prove something. It's this battle lies in a competition of maybe jealousy or ego. And then it resorts down to who do you think you are, smarter than everyone that came before you? Because that implies that they have believed these people and still are believing these people who you now are saying have misled you. How come I have an
Can
echo
you
here?
pop yourself on mute or turn your speakers down, Rebel? Because I can hear 10th Man feeding back through your speakers.
Interesting. I'm on the headset, so okay, put it on mute.
Doesn't matter. Headset or speakers, the same principle.
Yeah, I was hearing myself too.
Yeah, people assume that if it's headphones, they won't feed back, and it's like, yeah, you can still get feedback through headphones.
Yeah, so let's see if I could wrap that point up. So it's the argument is what should be taken seriously and either broken down and negated or accepted because it's too valid to negate any parts of it. But they don't argue on that point. They argue like, who told you? You've been watching YouTube videos? What makes you smarter than and how could and then they appeal to motive. How could everybody at NASA be lying? And no, you're just crazy. So it can't go there, but it does. But once it goes there, forget it because it's on the emotional based thing. I think it's not anymore like 2 + 2 is 4, no matter who says it, right?
That's right. It's like we can't accept anything that non-authority in their eyes tells that contradicts their perception. It's unbelievable.
And well, just look at what's happening now with the stupid coronavirus. They're totally lying about the death toll. They're totally pushing it. And it's when it comes to actual facts, we have very limited, and the ones we have later come out to be untrue, like who's dying, how many are dying, how old they are. And everyone is in a lockdown. Every country, they're doing something else, but it just shows the control they have over people through the TV and through the radio and through the internet and through this thing you just said, authority. And people are like sheep. Instead of thinking for themselves, they'll just accept anything. I'm trying to tell people, hey, this isn't what they're telling you. I know you got to get stuffed. I'm not saying don't, but it's not what they're telling you, and be on guard, because this is something else is going on. And they won't accept it. They think this is real. They think this is all
good luck with that. It's your word against the word from the mouth of the person on the TV. We can't win that.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I could send them any kind of proof I want. It still just goes over their head. I mean, instead of saying, and I've said this before about flat Earth, and instead of saying, okay, you are a dear person to me and I love you, please show me where you get this information, because if it's true, then I'm on your side of that interpretation. If it's not true, you're going to thank me for getting you out of it. So let's look at your sources. Instead of doing that, oh, I would love that. Wouldn't you love that, Nathan? What a conversation that would be.
Yeah, that would be
Then we could
wonderful.
ask,
One thing, though. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, then we could ask the 9 housekeeping questions, and then we can show the black swan. And the key is asking questions versus telling them anything. You got to get to the point where they're open to accepting your questions as not as an attack, but something, coming from your heart. That, well, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Have you thought of that? And then dwell on that and have a beer with them or something. But they won't do that. They're so brainwashed. They're like,
no, they would just smirk, they insult you, they're like, call you stupid. And that's another thing. From the very beginning, and I've been flat Earth for many years now, I held my tongue for the longest time not to mention anything, because I wanted to make sure I got my argument straight, cover all the edge cases and whatnot. And I've been with Nathan Oakley channel since I think episode 200, and not always on Discord, because I had technical difficulties and whatnot. The time zone difficulties. So I jump in as much as I can. But what always struck me as strange, and it's not a critique, it's just my observation, is when you get emotional, and there's like ad homs and name calling on both sides, and it turned me down. Not turned me down. It kind of left a bad taste in me. And I thought, surely we can have an argument, an intelligent discussion without emotions.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, I'd also like to do a quick shout out to my Patreon, so a couple of my unicorns. So big shout out to Kamikaze Gilmore, Leonardo Gonzalez and Colin Dresser, who are all Nathan Oakley 1980 channel members at the unicorn level. So big shout out to all of you. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Rebel, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, hello. Any signs of physical Earth curve obstruction, formerly known as their horizon?
Well, there was a time in this debate over the nature of this Earth that they used to say that the Earth curve was physical and it was obstructing the bottom of boats and buildings. But it seems like they've had a change of mind now.
Any
What do you mean they
evidence?
changed their mind? It's in the calculation. It's marked as X. Tangent.
Yeah, spot on, Rebel. Yeah, it does seem that way. And I don't know if you were alluding to that at before the live show started. But yeah, you've got people who will then deny their own religion. It is their horizon. Their horizon is geometric. The fact that they come here and now deny the fact that they'd ever see a geometric horizon when it's marked with an X, labelled horizon and claimed to be blocking things in the distance, is absurd. But that is literally where the cognition of the fundies who challenge us has been led. To deny their own religion, to deny the very physicality of their geometry that they claimed proved Earth was a sphere for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Hey, Chocolate?
Well, Nathan, how can these purveyors of science and
Good morning.
the nature of our Earth put an X there? Is that arbitrarily put there, or was that put there for a reason?
But they're based on the R value in their geometric model.
Oh, so they have an R value that gave them the evidence they needed to appropriately mark X there instead of somewhere else.
Yes.
And then when we asked them, how come that X doesn't work, i.e. the black swan, all of a sudden they're into apparent and
Imaginary.
optics and imaginary.
Yeah,
But the
suddenly
whole
it's
thing, though, guys,
it's
it's like a chicken and egg question. What came first, the measurement or observation? If their calculator is based on observation, where they marked the X that they measured, and we cannot observe, but they claiming that, well, it's there because our calculator says it's there. Well, then, if we can't observe what led to the measurement, it's like a gigantic flip-flop. Every time you point to their calculator, they say, well, it's because it was observed. You say, well, you can't observe it. And say, well, it's there because we calculated it. It's a clusterfuck.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
did they? I'm sorry, go on.
I was just saying, yes, absolutely correct. I describe it as the entire model imploding on itself. You asked about the NASA trajectories before we started the live show and said, well, they won't work if you haven't got a calculable R value. And I'm like, yeah, that's yet another thing on the list that hadn't been ticked off yet. Correct, all space travel. Not that we need to debunk that, really. They're travelling to a fake place. But you're still correct. All of their trajectories are based on that R value. And if that's dead, then all of that is also dead. Like I say, it's not necessary. You can't have a sky vacuum. We'd not be breathing. But nevertheless, it's still just another thing on the list that would also fall to pieces.
I was going to say, based on his last statement, did they observe the radius of the Earth from the center to the surface, or did they measure that? Can you see through the Earth to observe it?
They could not have reached the center. Allegedly, they only drilled 8 miles down. So that's out of the window.
So your statement of did they observe it, the chicken and the egg? Well, how did they get the center of the Earth to the surface if it's not observation? How did they come to that number?
It's imaginary, right? That's all it is at the end of the
Seat
day.
of the pants?
What they're claiming essentially is they're saying is we just imagined the sphere for thousands of years without shred of evidence. And once we invented instrument of flight, guess what? We've nailed it. It's like winning a lottery, winning every lottery that ever existed every time. It was just a lucky guess. But that's essentially what they're saying. That's insane.
It was leaps of logic and guesswork.
By the seat of the pants.
The way they actually phrase it, I think it's Andrew Thomas Young's website, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to say that you'd have to take geometric considerations for a non-physical location. In other words, even though the horizon moves with the weather, if you consider it with geometric consideration, I think that is the terminology. In other words, you can think of it as being physical. That's essentially what they're saying. That's their starting point.
He said pretty much all the above, which is the above meaning the entire page on refraction and all the mathematics and all of that, has been done on plane surfaces. But the Earth isn't flat. To have this work around, paraphrasing, to have this work around a curved atmosphere, we need to take geometric considerations. And that will be on a separate page. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the bait and switch. So AB Science has utilised this recently. In other words, talk about Snell's law, talk about actual effects of refraction, and then swindle in R, 7/6R. So they've got a section in their mathematics called refraction. So people assume that because it says refraction in the title, it's suddenly dealing with the optics of the world we deal in, or even dealing in refraction, which it isn't. So the refraction in the curve mathematics is based on R value, i.e. 7/6R. That's terrestrial refraction. It's geometric, and it's necessitated by R, and R gives you a geometric horizon. But their whole model still collapses, even though some of the fundies out there will assume that because it's using this word refraction, that means it's dealing in some way with the optics of the world we deal in. It's not. It's dealing with geometry. It's dealing with an R value. They're terrestrial refractions based on radius. But you still need that terrestrial refraction value giving you an R value, giving you a geometric horizon, which they haven't got anymore. So the thing still falls to pieces.
I haven't gone back because it's such a long show yesterday with Unorthodox, but I want to go back and really pay attention to how he just did what you just explained. He brought in refraction and he tried to tie it to the sphere. And he never explained the 5 effects of refraction that, QE had put up there from their own subject matter expert. So I was hoping, but the show was going too long. I was hoping somebody would, because I wanted to, please explain to me all the facets of refraction, and let's see if they can do what you say your refraction is doing now.
Yeah, but he couldn't even get to that because he had too much time deciphering whether we have one horizon or 2.
Well,
So
right.
wait a second. Unorthodox was arguing refraction. If they're arguing refraction, how on earth can they calculate the physical edge?
They can't.
I mean, they're just dead in the water as soon as they're out of the word.
They can't. What they do is they will say that they'll go out of their way to explain how all the lines to anything that we're looking at in any picture is bent. Everything's refracted. That's their current standpoint. Well, if everything's refracted, how do you draw a straight tangent? Tangent, by definition, is a straight line meeting the curved surface. If they're claiming the curved surface is what they're utilising for their geometry, then they need a tangent. That's what geometry is. So, without a straight line, because it's all refracted, they're no longer capable of doing geometry. Now, we should have spotted this when we argued about the Isle of Man. I've said this a few times. There's the Isle of Man in front of us. It's claimed to be refracted. And they argue and fudge the values at how much over R they're going to use. But it's still dictated by R. It's still dictated by radius. And according to them, all the targets when we argued about the Isle of Man were refracted. So they're still doing a straight line to the tangent point, which is claimed to be blocking the things in the distance, but then simultaneously bending all the lines for the targets. Now, we didn't spot that in essence, if you've got bent lines, you can't do a tangent. But we didn't spot that. Now it's got to the point where they're overtly saying, the horizon itself is refracted. Now, if you overtly state that the thing that you're going to be using for your geometry is refracted, bent lines, then you're no longer doing geometry. It is absolutely game over for the globe. The white swan destroys it at every angle. The curved maths dies, along with the geometry and the assertion we live on a sphere. That's the ground-level, ground-based asserted proof that we're on a sphere. Here we prove it with geometry. It's what you see based on this math, side on, no perspective. Here you go, that's the proof you're on a sphere. As soon as they relinquish the idea of doing geometry at all, because everything's refracted, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
reminds me
Well
of the
said.
same story that you're trying to cram down our throats in regards to Aristophanes, right? We know for 2,000 years we live on sphere because of that guy who put the sticks in the ground and or whatever, looked down the wells. And we argued, I argued that it's impossible to measure the distances or defer anything from that measurement. And they were saying, no, you're wrong. It's been proven until what's his face? DeGrasse Tyson comes out and says, no, you can't tell whether it's a sphere or plane just by looking in the wells into different points. And now they shut up. It's the same story. They cram down our throats in regards to the physical edge, the abstraction of the objects at the distance. And now they say, no, that never happened. We can never see a horizon. That's not what we were saying. It's just the same shell game.
Yeah, it's just a shell game. Correct. In terms of the timeline that's asserted, it's Aristarchus and his shadows saying we're on a sphere, followed by Al-Biruni getting a horizon dip, followed by the assumption from there on in. So the assumption that you have an R value is then perpetuated as being the proof that we've got a sphere beneath our feet. What cracks me up when people use Aristophanes is that often they'll quote directly from Wikipedia, and in Wikipedia it even says that he assumes the R value. So he's assuming a spherical surface when he's doing his sticks and shadows or wells, depending on which version of the story you get. Nevertheless, it's based on an assumption of R, and it overtly states it in most of the sources about that particular claim to be experiment. Well, who was the one who... Gary Awesome did it. So Gary Awesome was like, we know it's a sphere, and then he quoted off the sticks and shadows nonsense. It's like, but the point was, even in his own rhetoric, when he's reading that out, he overtly states, and he assumes it's a sphere. You're like, you couldn't quite believe what he was doing. He's using it as a proof, and then overtly stating that the assumption is that the Earth's a sphere. So you're like, God, you guys don't even read your own sources when you're parroting off this crap as though it's a proof that we're on a sphere. We're not. It didn't prove it. It started with an assumption, like they all do.
It's right in front of them. I got feedback again.
Yeah, but they claim Aristophanes, based on his alleged experiment, was able to calculate the radius, which even if all true is impossible, because we have to fucking know the distance to the object, the sun, in order to do that. Even if all above was true, just the whole thing is ridiculous.
Can you pop yourself on mute, because I'm getting feedback when you're not talking?
He did.
Okay, good. So let's look at it this way. Whenever I went with my boat, when I had it to Catalina, depending on how fast I was going there in knots, I knew when I'd get there because I knew the distance, 26 miles. I'm looking at these two oil platforms. We know the distances that they are. They're listed in the state mandate of oil companies to be so far out. And so it's not just QE or BLMSB 69 that say it's this far out. It's a matter of record. And I looked it up and we put it on screen. We know that they're, depending from where you're measuring, what was it, 6.2 and 9.4 miles out or so forth. Does that change? I mean, if you were to get on a boat and go from the shore to there at a certain speed, would you not arrive there according to the speed and the distance at a certain time frame? So now these guys are saying that we're looking at that thing, but that thing got refracted. But if I go test it to see if that refraction actually happened, it doesn't prove because I'm seeing one oil platform and then the other right behind it. I could see that visible distance with my own eyes, but they're saying my eyes is saying those things are further out than they should be. So when I go to test it by going there on the boat, they always come up with the same time based on the speed, based on the distance. So it's a nonsense argument. They're not refracted. Those are physical things right there.
Well, yeah, they need to be. They certainly need the horizon to be physical. They certainly need to be able to draw a straight tangent to it.
Yeah, and the horizon's
Well,
always
in
behind
terms
it.
of refraction,
Again,
in terms of refraction, the objects can appear slightly looming or stooping, if I'm pronouncing it right. In other words, lower or higher, just a little bit, right? Which underlines the whole notion, I guess, supports the argument that giving the refraction, you cannot determine the distance to the horizon. You cannot put the tangent line because you don't know what the hell that is. It's sort of there, approximately where it is, right? But you cannot determine. And that's, for me, where the argument stops. If you cannot determine the distance to horizon, that's it. The game is over.
correct.
That's where unorthodox made a fatal mistake yesterday when he says, but the military uses it. No, they don't. They'd be missing the targets.
That's right. That's right. Don't forget the Coriolis.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now you brought something else. You got Coriolis and
What
refraction.
Coriolis?
Well, Coriolis allegedly that the military uses to shoot their shells. I think that George, was arguing that. Oh my God, he was saying they had to shoot like 20 miles to the angle east to west to reach the target by the time the shell lands.
Yeah, but what about the object not being there and it's refracted? You're hitting a ghost. So you got Coriolis to take into consideration and a refraction. Good luck.
Shout out to the flatearthchannel.com who says coronavirus is a hoax. I know this is true anyway from your comments, Rebel, but your discussion today is indicative of those who understand the Black Swan argument. In other words, upon understanding it, you seem very relaxed. That's the first thing I'd note. The second thing I'd note is that you're describing all the things in their model that just fall completely to pieces based on this single argument. And it's a lot of their argument that falls to pieces. Anything that's revolving around the geometry of a sphere Earth, which is most of their argument, and it all falls to pieces. So if you get it, your discussion type turns to the type that Rebel's using, which is to say, you say, oh, well, this also falls apart, and that all falls apart, and how can they assert this, and how can they assert... Yeah, that's your general tone if you understand this argument.
Yeah, but it's important for me to spot when people make these fundamental assumptions. And as in pre-show, I was mentioning about my struggles with relatives. Once they start talking to me about trying to dispute my notion or the argument, and they're making these fundamental assumptions, and not just one, but many upon many upon many, one assumption based on another. So I had to stop them in the track and say, okay, well, let's just examine this very fundamental premise that you're basing your argument with. And they just lose their shit. They cannot imagine that the fundamental basis that they base their argument on may not be correct. And that's, for them, is just the end of the world. That's the end of the discussion. That's where at home start. And that's the tricky part, is to stop.
Yeah, because who are you
people in
to
their
be able
tracks.
to point that out? That's what it is. It's that feeling of who are you to be able to point that out to me? Why wouldn't I know that?
Yeah. I don't know. It's some kind of psychological struggle that I wasn't able to break through yet.
Pride.
Yeah, I've had people tell
They're
me
using the white coat syndrome a lot. They're appealing.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really, really sad. But I don't know what to do.
For example, I hear a lot, who are you? Who do you think you are to tell me this? You took my horizon away.
I was told even better than that. Oh, you think you're so smart? Then take your argument, go and argue with the professor in university. Make a video, then send it to me. Then I'll believe it. Can you imagine?
Yeah, but that's saying that's.
I thought of a good one.
I see this as projection. In most instances, those kinds of responses are projection. So what I gleaned from that, Rebel, is my authority wears a white coat and has told me it's a sphere. You go and get an equal value authority figure to tell me what you're telling me, and I'll accept that. So it says I defer to authority figures. My authority figure doesn't agree with you, and I hold him in higher esteem than you. Therefore, you need to get someone of equal esteem. Further to that, it also, and this is something I've been talking about recently, also to me demonstrates that that person is their own victim. They're lying to themselves. They've been presented with information, but they choose to not go and grab a guy who's actually wearing a white coat, go and drag a source off Wiki. No, just defer to their own logic in terms of what they understood from the white coats that have indoctrinated them. But at that moment, it becomes self-indoctrination. They are fighting for their own cause, and therefore, at the point that they, if they ever came round to the truth, said, how is it possible that I have been deceived? Who am I going to blame? Well, you were the one telling yourself that the white coats were right. And you hadn't double-checked what the white coat said, you hadn't looked further into where their sources lied, you hadn't done primary source research, you hadn't looked into geometry, you hadn't done any of that. You just accepted at face value what a guy who seemed to be an authoritarian figure told you, and from that point in, you defended it yourself. There was no moment where they got their phone out and went to Wiki or did anything research-wise. At that moment, they just said, no, I decide you're wrong.
That's right.
Couldn't have said it better, Nathan. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think most of the people I interact with, including my relatives, I know they're smart, and I think it's a case of cognitive dissonance. They hang so much of their life beliefs on this rope of the heliocentrism without ever checking the integrity of it. And if anybody comes and says, by the way, your rope is about to snap, and so they realize the whole entire belief system is out of the window, and they have to re-examine everything. They can't do that.
Imagine if you'd spent your entire life using a spoon back to front, holding the dished end of the spoon and using the other end, because that's what you were told by your parents, for the sake of argument. And that, by analogy, is the comparison of being told you're on a sphere. And by coincidence, everyone around you, your whole family, which is quite a large extended family, also do the same thing. They use the reverse end of the spoon. And one day you go out into the general populace, and someone says to you, you do realise you're using the spoon the wrong way round. Now, at that moment, you've got a choice. Either accept that what you assume to be correct is wrong, or challenge the person based on your current understanding. And that is the moment where you decide, well, no, why would it, how could it be that I've been deceived? Now, where you say cognitive dissonance, I say pure pride. You prefaced it by saying they're intelligent people. That, to me, again, suggests to a higher degree that it would be pride that would stand in the way. How could I have been deceived? Well, I'm not stupid.
But isn't
I'm
that
intelligent.
part of cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, when you've got two opposing thoughts being held at the same time, but that wasn't given in your example. In this example, you've just got a worldview and a challenge to that worldview, and the only thing you've got in your mind is, how could I have been deceived? How could I be wrong about this? I'm not a stupid person. Well, therefore I'm not wrong about this. You're wrong about this. That's how it goes. That's pride.
And if I was wrong about this, I would have already figured it out. and I
Yeah.
wouldn't need you to tell me. So who do you think you are for telling me what I should have known?
How would
So
you
it
have
can't
figured
be
this
true.
out
That's
before
it.
me?
That's it,
How could
Chocolate.
you know
Yes, you
this
got it.
before?
Yes.
Exactly, Chocolate. How could you know this before I knew this? If this was something that was real, I'd know it already, because I'm an intelligent person. The fact that I don't realise it and you're telling it me means it's wrong, because I know differently. So how are you to tell me this? I would know it already if it was correct.
So at this point, it becomes basically a pissing contest. You claiming you are smarter than I am, and I don't think so, right? That's all it is.
Not you're smarter than me. How could I have been deceived? So it's not necessarily at the first stage externalized onto you. Yeah, it will be eventually. It always is projected straight back onto you. You're dumb. You must have heard that at least a few times, right? Not necessarily from your family, but
Yeah,
from people
bingo, for sure.
right. Well, that's their way of projecting onto you. How could I have been deceived? Well, I haven't, and you're telling me something contrary to what I know is correct. Therefore, you are the stupid one. And when it's like, hold on, that might actually be... No, I'm not stupid. I wouldn't be deceived. How could that possibly be? You're stupid. Don't you know
Therefore,
about the blah, blah,
if you are
blahs?
stupid, then anything you say is invalid, right? It's that's where the circle meets.
Especially when the programming leads people to demonise flat earthers in general. That's obviously been ramped up of recent years. But if you can get the person in the the globe side, the opposing side to us, to automatically know instinctively that a flat earther is stupid, then anything they say can automatically out of hand be disregarded as stupid. And you can overtly tell them, because that's tolerated at a society level as well. It's absolutely expected to ridicule a flat earther as being an idiot. Therefore, you've got a position where somebody has an understanding that's challenged, and the challenge might even cognitively, if your example of cognitive dissonance, make sense, and that might be the thing that triggers them, the two opposing positions. But then they've got to make a choice between the position that makes sense, presumably you put a coherent argument across in whatever subject you're talking about, versus what they've been told by Mr. Whitecoat. And then they, at that moment, they make their choice about whether or not they could have been deceived. And obviously, if they're challenging and saying, no, I couldn't be incorrect in this regard, you must be wrong, you must be stupid. And their wiring says, of course this guy's stupid, he's a flat earther. He's just told me he thinks it's flat. So he's obviously an idiot. And so the programming progresses out with them berating you, ridiculing you, and getting on with their day, annoyed at you for being so stupid.
Well,
Yeah, it's
Nathan,
also like
it ha-
you're correct. All of the above. Well, also, I think there's a big component of a mob thing. It's ability to belong to group, and I find the most people who are opposed or completely disregarding offhand and hand wave the argument are the people who value social gathering and being part of a community. I find those people are the most difficult to talk to, because in their mind, if they are, for instance, even as much as to think differently than the rest of the group, they just not going to even attempt that.
I believe that because most of the time the thought will be, oh, what will other people think about me, right? And how I feel about this. Not is this actually the truth? And let me actually deal
Correct.
with
Yes.
the
Yes.
reality that whether it is or not. If it is, then I have to deal with the reality. Oh, people are going to look at me crazy and think I'm a psychopath for thinking the Earth is flat.
That's
Before we
it.
lose,
That's it.
hang on, please. Before we lose this pertinent point, there's two times ever since I've been on this show that I've heard someone address Nathan Oakley as the grocery delivery boy. It happened yesterday with Unorthodox because his argument became untenable. He had to fight geometry. Prior to that, it happened with Bob at Globebusters because Nathan went on and shared the scientific method properly. And Bob couldn't handle that, so he said that. Well, wear that badge proudly, Nathan.
Yeah, for my actual career, I was an international rep for an electronics manufacturer. I was like James Bond. I was flying all over the place, going into studios, dealing with famous people, rich people. That was my actual job. And then, right, I branched from that. I started doing YouTube and wanted to do YouTube. So ramping down to a part-time job, I just found something random, which was delivering. I did it for a relatively short period of time while I transitioned into doing full-time YouTube. But that has now been labelled my job. It's like one of the channels I've got is called Oakley Cord, and it's riddled with all the equipment and hi-fi that I used to do when I was an international rep. But yet the label I've got is grocery delivery boy. You're like, okay, well, fair enough. I did actually do that. But in many ways, and it only occurred to me when an Orthodox said it yesterday, it's like, actually, that sounds terrible. If I remove my prideful aspect of, well, that's a label about me being a grocery delivery boy, and think about it in terms of how it actually projects out about the argument, he basically phrased it in such a way that made it sound like grocery delivery boy debunks the science of heliocentrism. That's how it ended up being paraphrased from what he was basically saying. I'm like, my God, that sounds awful for the globe side. You know, it does sound terrible.
But that's how it came
Nathan,
out.
I mean, all of us
this
at
was
some point in
after
time held...
being destroyed. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, but all of us, I mean, at least I assume at some point held different jobs like delivery boys, construction workers, plumbers, cleaners, you know. We have to start somewhere, even if you're a professor somewhere. Doesn't mean that's your title forever. That's ridiculous.
Right on. I mean,
what Tent said is very, very important.
I had a janitorial business, and I was averaging $50 an hour cleaning other people's toilets. Huh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Sorry, which I don't
Let's
think that was
not
the
let what Tent go unnoticed. What Tent said go unnoticed, because that's, you know, when you have him there. When I debate them, they always, when I get them in something, they tell me, you're a high school dropout. What do you know? When you hear that, Nathan, you know you've won, bro.
Oh yeah, oh no, I do totally appreciate that. When AB Science claimed that I hadn't got flamethrowers in the Black Swan, I was actually a meth addict. Obviously, I instantly smirked and went, "Wah, this is going to be good." Open with an ad hom, wicked. I've definitely won this one before it's even started. So yeah, no, I totally appreciate that.
Yep.
Man, you have a thick skin, I tell you.
I worked in sales.
When they
ad
hom you, so you know you have them, you know they're crying. And trust me, they're crying with the Black Swan. They're having nightmares.
Yeah.
I think you gotta have a bit of a thick skin, because I'm pretty sure we're probably very hated by these guys. And who cares?
Well, you got that right, Chocolate.
I think
we're sitting here destroying your model.
Just gonna do a quick shout out. Sorry.
Yeah,
you know what I heard
of
the other
thick
day?
skin to be in this debate. I mean, probably everybody around me, including my relatives, hate my guts. Some of them tell straight to my face. Most of them don't. Like, it's really painful for me. I don't know about you guys, what communities you belong to and families around you, but like, I'm just not having fun at all. But I mean, you can't see the matrix and then unsee it. You just can't do it. It's part of you. This is just what it is. So you have to have a thick skin.
Right, just do a quick shout out
that comes with the territory.
Bear with me a second. I just want to shout out Eric. He's giving me a super chat. He's giving me money. Come on. Right, Eric McLeany, thank you very much for the super chat. Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. Plato. Oh, wow.
Plato.
I'm going to read that again. That's a great quote. Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. Plato. Love it. Thank you very much for the super chat, Eric.
That's a great quote.
Yeah. You remember that game where the tagline in the commercials were, "You sunk my battleship." Now we can do that with their Horizon. You sunk my Horizon.
You stole my optics.
That was my favorite. Oh, you don't understand the difference between physical and optics.
Yeah, they're all doing the same. They're all towing the same line. Again, AB Science did exactly the same thing. We explained it. I can't remember if it was the beginning of this live show or the pre-show, but he's essentially doing the same bait and switch they all do. Talk about atmospheric refraction. Talk about Snell's law. Bring up a load of diagrams. Make yourself seem really smart. Now I'm sure, or I'm not going to. I didn't even challenge any of his mathematics on Snell's law. Why would I? Is refraction real? Yeah. Could he qualify it in an educated way? Yeah. Can he do a good job of demonstrating all of the mathematics for refraction? Yeah. I'm sure AB Science did a fantastic job of detailing Snell's law. But then he slipped in the geometric atmospheric refraction that's used in the geometric Earth curve calculator, which has sod all to do with Snell's law and everything to do with R. It's 7/6R. So it's the classic bait and switch when it comes to terrestrial refraction and Earth curve geometry. Talk about refraction, make people realise you know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to refraction, and then surreptitiously start talking about terrestrial refraction. Maybe not even mention that fact. Just bring up a diagram of an Earth with a curved line drawn around it. That'll be the 7/6R Earth curve terrestrial refraction. That's not the refraction that was being detailed in terms of Snell's law. He even justified it that way. Like, I wasn't even talking about the geometry. I was talking about terrestrial refraction. I was talking about Snell's law. It's like, no, you were addressing the Black Swan. And in your address to the Black Swan directly, you talked about Snell's law so that you can bait and switch us with the terrestrial refraction that's used in the Earth curve geometry. Because that's the refraction when you're talking about these models side on, with lines and curves drawn, and claim geometry based on R. That's the Earth curve proof that's being utilised when he sticks a white swan on screen. But it's a bait and switch. Talk about refraction, make yourself seem educated so people trust you, and then switch it for terrestrial refraction, 7/6R, based on a radius, giving you a physical geometric horizon, something that he continually tells us we're not going to see. So your R value refraction all falls to pieces. I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about Snell's law. It's like, no, what you're going to justify it by using the bait that you used and claim that, oh no, I was only using this bait. It wasn't anything to do with the actual argument. No, you came on camera to debunk the Black Swan with a big smirk grin on your face, thinking you're doing really well, telling people about Snell's law. And then when you declared that you hadn't done any maths, that was where you switched it for terrestrial refraction. Maybe AB Science is actually not getting a fair crack of the whip here. Maybe he's too stupid to appreciate when he declared that he hadn't done any mathematics. Hadn't spent, 15 straight minutes doing mathematics for Snell's law. What he actually meant is, I'm not doing any of the mathematics that actually addresses the Black Swan, because that's using geometry and terrestrial refraction. So I'll make you think I'm doing lots of mathematics and know what I'm talking about, only to later openly declare I've not done any maths for this. But that was the point that he switched in his bullshit about Snell's law with geometric refraction. Bait and switch. Simple.
Yeah. It's so
But as soon as they
easy
argue
to spot
refraction,
now when they do this. Like it's almost just comedy when they try to sneak in their little tactics. Like we don't hear what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. This AB Science guys, he knew was he not around for all these years when all of his side was arguing for physical geometry of a ball, obscuring objects and boats and buildings and all this crap?
Of course not. He was busy sniffing his own farts, telling himself he was a scientist.
gas pressure.
Good one, bro.
but Nathan, as soon as somebody brings a refraction in the argument in regards to distance to horizon, can't we just stop the argument right there?
Yeah, you can.
And not talk about the types of the refractions and whatnot?
You're a man after my own heart, Rebel, right? But just don't gang up on QE with this. So my attitude is precisely that. That's the end of the argument, the punctuation mark. The problem, and this is why QE, I hope he doesn't mind me speaking on his behalf, he wants people to implicitly understand what refraction actually is. and highlight the fact that none of the refractive effects that are detailed in terms of actual atmospheric refraction are going to do what they say will happen with the horizon. None of the actual atmospheric effects are going to do that to the horizon, ever. And they're not going to do it to the geometric horizon, because that's beyond geometric capabilities. It stops being geometric. So therefore, it's not applicable. Now, AB Science was saying, none of this is applicable, because this only applies to a geometric horizon, and we don't have a geometric horizon. And he's saying it with a smug look on his face, like he's doing well. Because he's obviously not actually appreciated the argument. The argument is that you definitely require a geometric horizon, marked with an X, labelled horizon in your geometric model, claimed to be blocking things and bending at altitude. You've definitely got one, it's definitely geometric, it's defined as such. However, you can't actually do geometry if you haven't got a geometric horizon. So relinquishing it and saying, we haven't got one, we'd never see it, essentially destroys your mathematics. So the concession is us.
Right, I understand why QE does it. He wants to educate people, I think, as to that refraction that is being spoken of has nothing to do with refraction as we understand. So well, they then go into, oh, that's an extreme refraction, or it's some kind of a special refraction.
Not exactly.
But that just becomes the...
Not exactly, no.
Becomes
just
an argument about...
Sorry, Rebel, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Just want to correct you. No. The effects of actual refraction in the air that we look through can't correlate to moving the horizon by definition. So if you're talking about looming, for example, it's things moving with respect to the horizon. Same with sinking. They're all described with respect.
What I was saying, yes.
Yeah, so none of those effects are actually utilised to be juxtaposed with 7/6R when QE goes through them, so people understand that if they say looming, it doesn't actually work by definition. That's not an effect that you can do with looming, because things are moving in looming terms with respect to the horizon. Not the horizon looming above the horizon. That's completely non sequitur. But I just want to get you back on track to where you started this, and I agreed with you, which is that, no, at the moment you utilise any sort of refraction, you're no longer doing geometry. That's game over. You need a geometric horizon to do geometry. You need a tangent line to do geometry. And as soon as you say you haven't got those things, it's game over geometry.
Right, yes. I agree with everything you said. I meant to say that perhaps QE's intent was to educate the refraction in any known a variation of it does not at all constitute the observation, that the two do not align. It doesn't exist. So then they go to talk about special type of refraction, right? And it just becomes the game of, what refraction is. And as you said, my point would be, it's just not, as soon as the word refraction is uttered, I think that's where the argument stops. It doesn't really matter what type of refraction.
I'm in concurrence with you there, because if we're talking about standard refraction, from this terrestrial refraction, the one based on R, that just got destroyed and debunked. Oh, you don't have an R, so then you don't have any terrestrial refraction. Argument done.
Yeah, that's where I'd draw the line.
Yeah, but for me, that's too far. Yeah, that's too far. As soon as refraction is uttered, that means we're no longer dealing with geometry. That's where the game ends for me. Like, if we go into the refraction, that's just... I understand why people do that,
you're
but
absolutely
I don't think
right,
it's
because
necessary.
you can't have a refracted horizon. Because if everything's refracted, how did you measure anything?
Every time this comes up, just by coincidence, the Isle of Man's on screen, and it's like it's taunting me. We should have spotted this when we were arguing about the Isle of Man 2 years ago. That's when we should have spotted this. We didn't. We let them draw a straight line to a tangent. So we let them have the horizon with straight line geometry, and then talk about refraction all day long and how much they're going to vary it for the Isle of Man moving up and down while they've got this straight line drawn to the horizon. We should have spotted this 2 years ago. And I feel embarrassed that we argued about it so long and didn't spot it.
I've spotted it, but I didn't know how to formulate that.
You spotted
I
it, but you
was
didn't know how to
more-
put it into words.
Correct.
Fair enough.
Could I say something on the refraction thing, Nathan?
Hey, Brian, didn't spot you there.
Hey, I said hello a while ago, but everyone was talking, so I don't think you heard me. I think that what QE wants is for all the flat earthers to understand refraction and the 5 effects of refraction, and what looming really is, which is the sky mirroring onto the water and giving the effect, the visual effect of something floating in the air when it's not, as opposed to their version of it from Andrew Thomas Young that they're trying to relinquish now, of something looming up above the horizon, from below the Earth curve that we usually wouldn't see, this kind of thing. So he just wants us to all know what refraction really is and what real looming is. Because even if you go to Google, they'll give you the photographs of the sky mirroring onto the sea, which gives you just the visual effect of a boat or something appearing to float in the air, but it's not. It's still on the water. That's what QE wants. He doesn't care whether they know it or not, because he knows they don't know it, and they keep on not learning it. You think they would have learned it with the fact that we all know it better than them now, more or less, and they're still not learning it, most of them.
They don't know it because they've been screaming refraction, but have they ever mentioned the 5 effects of refraction
No,
and
most of them.
determined exactly how those effects are affecting whatever it is we're seeing? I mean, it's it's just game over from this point. And Nathan, I hear you when you say you kind of feel bad that we didn't catch this before or whatever. I feel like, you know what, I think we had to kind of go through this whole thing just so that we got to this point where we understand it at this level. Because had we found out before, maybe it wouldn't have been this way. So I'm not mad about it. I know you probably are, but I don't know.
Well, it's
I
just
think
two
it's
years
like a
ago.
training thing, you know.
You come to this subject and you've got a really basic understanding of what geometry is. Then you get into this discussion and you're already in it. You're headlong in it. You're in the deep end, having to scramble to figure out what it all means and work it all out on the fly. So you work it all out on the fly. You spend a great deal of time intensely studying this shit to unpick it. But in the process of learning it and unpicking it, you've left this massive, great big seam attached. And when you come back to it a couple of years later and go, holy crap, look at that. It's just, that's holding it together. If I'd have just nipped that with a seam cutter, that would be it. The whole thing would have fallen to pieces there and then, 2 years ago. But here we are now, with it's taken them literally screaming it in our face, the horizon's refracted, for me to go, bloody hell. How are they doing geometry then? Up until that point, we just went along with them. They're saying straight line to the horizon. Beyond that, everything's refracted. It's being loomed up to the horizon. Rumpus even qualified by saying, it's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon. I trimmed it out and republished it. Right? So we're all just going along with this idea of straight line to the physical blockage for your geometry and your tangent, and then looming beyond there. So that's how we're wired. But as soon as it took the breaking point, the straw that breaks the camel's back, is when they say, no, the hard line reference point that's supposed to be blocking stuff is also looming. And then you go, what? Oh yeah, aren't you doing geometry?
Well, that's the black swan, and like a diamond that has many facets. We were going through each facet of the argument back then. Then when QE spotted the horizon behind the second oil platform, he said, wait a minute. And so now the discovery of a facet that we hadn't argued about. And now that is that seam you're talking about.
There was too many arguments. That was one of the arguments back in 2015, but there were so many arguments back then with NASA and all this other nonsense that it just was such a simple argument that people would use it and then they skip on to another argument and they didn't stay with it. So if someone was debating, they'd throw that out there and then, they'd put that out there about the horizon being too far for what the globe would predict. And then they move on, they get some kind of a rebuttal off of the other side, some kind of a like send them down a different tangent, and then they'd move away from that and start arguing about some other nonsense. Could be NASA, could be anything. So there was so much nonsense to argue about. It's just that it wasn't until now, till end of 2019, early 2020, that it was that we could actually collectively argue about this and stick on it, because all those other bases were already covered. And I think with the oil man thing, Nathan, I think that there was probably a lot of stuff that was found out, that was learned through that, even though you could have killed that argument way beforehand. You know, if you had been if you were kind of being more simplistic in thinking about it. But at the time, what can you do? You're just in the trenches, you're arguing. What can you do? You're not going to. So,
Well,
it's simple things are harder to see.
Back then, that was before the calculator was even known as the proof of nothing, beg of the question, perspective hijacking curve calculator. So, we were still arguing in that mind state where they hadn't actually hijacked
the
perspective
hyena.
the way they did.
Yeah, but before the Black Swan, and shout out to QE and BMLS69 for this, they had wiggle room. Now they're dealing with geometry, set in stone, 3959, game over. You can't change that. There's no way out of this.
Yet you can't change it, whether you're stupid. Of course we can change it.
Hold on, you missed a bit of credit.
Science.
Hold on, just one sec. You've missed a bit of credit. So, Taboo Conspiracy was definitely in that chain, and if anything, deserves the most credit. Yes, Quantum Eraser formulated the modus tollens argument and made it solid, made it concrete, made it undebunkable. But the process of him getting to that was through Taboo Conspiracy utilising BLMSB's observation from several years earlier. But he did the math, explained in terms of a qualification of physicality, where the horizon would be, how big the sphere we would be standing on would be with that qualification. And it was that sparked QE to develop it into an absolutely rock-solid modus tollens argument. So a huge amount of credit to Taboo Conspiracy. So Ben, massive shout-out to you, my friend.
Thank you, Nathan. I'll keep that in mind.
Word.
Agreed. Thank you, Ben.
Have you guys seen latest Ben's video? He mirrored the video of Matthew channel.
Matthew?
Test on the lake.
I haven't actually. Maybe I have. Fill us in.
Essentially, I can't remember the channel he referenced, even though I subscribed to him right after. You guys have to go check out to Taboo Conspiracy 2 and see what the channel he's referencing. An experiment, well, the test that he did with his wife, somebody else by the name of Matthew did with his father, only with 13 point some kilometers distance. Sorry, rather miles. They did a flashlight test and a laser test. And the peculiar thing about the laser test, laser actually hits dead on right into the lens. It's not like the light you see that is emitting from the distance. The laser beam actually hits the lens of the camera, which was very impressive. You guys have to check it out. Then he lowers the camera all the way to the water, and he talks to his father, and they were doing a synchronized test when he was asking him, Matthew was asking his father to cover the light source with his hand. And you can see every time he would cover the light source that it is indeed the light source that he think it is. So the synchronized tests were great. Anyway, check it out. It's great.
It's level-headed channel.
The original channel's called Level Headed.
Okay, maybe let me check.
No, Taboo posted it. I still need to watch it. It came up on the notification. There was something about Utah and the lake or something. But I think that's the one you're referencing, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Taboo posted it.
Oh, well, regardless, you'll definitely be able to find out from Taboo Conspiracy 2. So that's Taboo, then Conspiracy, then a number 2 channel on YouTube. So check it out. That's Ben. That's who we were referencing in regards to crediting for what turned into the Black Swan argument.
That's it. Yes.
Must suck.
So anyway, what is this about? Is this the flat Earth society or some sort? Where all you guys are stupid or something? Have you not seen the pictures from space? You guys don't think we live on a sphere?
No, we
What's
did
happening?
not see.
You guys nuts or something? The Aristophanes proved the Earth is round 2,000 years ago. What are you, stupid? You've never been to school? What? This is insane.
Go ahead, Arwen.
Yeah, and I just want to say, no, we have not seen the pictures from space. We've seen pictures on our computer screen that are classified as images that are being told to us have been taken from space towards Earth, even though space's second law of thermodynamics violation in order to get there. Yeah, that can't be possible. And
Well, blah 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 blah. What about those astronauts?
Fall,
You don't believe that astronauts are telling the truth? What? That's stupid. That's conspiracy theory.
Well, if you can find an astronaut that tells the truth, then please point me out who.
There were two that said it's flat.
What? All of them are saying the truth. What are you talking about?
Are all your relatives like really camp and half Mexican or something? Like a slightly gay Mexican accent going on there.
I don't know what kind of accent it is.
Doesn't know what the hell he is.
Look, let's not ad hom the fake globe head. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to today's live panel. If you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be hopefully a very light-hearted after show to follow. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Massive thank you to all who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
On that accent.
Silence, Legolas.
Yeah, I only realized halfway that he was actually acting like a baller. I thought he was actually saying that. You know, these days you don't know anymore.
Well, yeah, you
Actual
came in
ballers
late.
sound just as silly as that.
Oh, he can act like a baller. All his relatives are ballers, and you had missed the whole background story. So he just went into that character of one of his relatives.
Is it Mini Driver that's got like that? What are you, stupid? Is that Mini Driver? Am I thinking of the right person?
Rosie Perez.
Yeah, Rosie Perez. That's it. That's who I was picturing. But because he's male, obviously it's like a guy doing a Rosie Perez impersonation. Sounds like a really camp Mexican. Not that that was relevant to your Globehead impression at all. What are you, stupid?
Oh, I have a lot of puns, but I'm going to hold back. Oh my, that was good. That was a good hour. We only got through one housekeeping question.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did at one point think, should I try and bring this back onto housekeeping? Sometimes it doesn't matter. Yesterday I didn't shout any Patreons. Just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't we
It's not
really
like,
just
well-
need one? Because once the radius is debunked, isn't everything else done? I mean, I don't know.
It's
There's
been
so
trending
many
that way.
conceptual mediums to start out with, you know.
Two mediums.
It's been trending that way, Chocolate, because today we did with that one, with the Black Swan one, with the physical horizon, and we stayed on it. And then when Anthony comes on, he says, "Are we done with the housekeeping questions?" Okay, just say it. I'll rattle them off. No. Okay, I want to talk about.
I do like that because I want that to be the first thing someone hears on the live show. And obviously the live show, we're all warmed up. We've done our whatever, admin and sound checks and all that kind of boring stuff. That's all in the pre-show. And then when you get to the live show, everyone's ready to start off with those questions, and it gets people in the mood. Normally one of them will spur a conversation. And by the end, someone's itching to get in their point from one of the housekeeping questions. Or, like today, the housekeeping questions themselves develop into a decent conversation about the subject matter. And that's their point. So I'm never going to say, no, we must get through housekeeping. It's like, well, no, if the first question in housekeeping develops an hour-long show, I'm all for that. You know, the fact that the housekeeping questions change order quite frequently and the first question isn't necessarily always the first question means that it's not going to be the case that we always get any scientific evidence of gravity as the opener of the show and then never an answer to that question, or always only the answer to that question if, you know, Anthony and Arwin are on that sort of tip, when they were on that tip, I should say, past tense. But I like that. It means that the newbie, that was my point, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. The newbie comes to the show opens, there's no shout-outs to Patrons, there's no shout-outs to anybody like that, it's bang. What's the evidence that proves you're on a spinning space ball flying through a vacuum?
Yeah. Have you noticed I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but observation is probably better. I've been observing these ballers after the black swan versus before the black swan. And it's a noticeable difference. And it's kind of behind the scenes of everything they're doing and saying. Like yesterday with Unorthodox, then Kosho, Rumpus, Zanuck, all of them, and even Brenda. What's happening is they've put so much faith and trust into the people in the white coats that they assume that someone actually did measure the radius of the Earth. And they assume that it is geometrically true, all these statements. And since all of that works out, I'm going to fight for the globe. Now, because of the black swan, they're like, what? That's untenable. And they are in a position, very soon, one of them will break. It's all been a Jedi mind trick. There's no such thing as a radius. They never had one. This was all a model all along. And now the model has been broken by the black swan. And I can't defend it. I sound silly when I'm trying to defend it. This is where this is going.
Nah, I don't think so.
I completely agree. Up until now, Owen, we had a prayer that declared that in R they could trust. Because that's what we were fighting after the essential draw, that you can declare refraction and refraction will bring things back from behind the horizon, and that was a draw. So they've got a begging the question, proof if nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, and radius dominus gravitas spiritus sanctus. In R they trust. Not anymore. Now they can't trust in R. They can't put their faith in the mandatory assertion, like Unorthodox did while you were here yesterday, Arwin. He demanded that light arbitrarily bends through the atmosphere, because arbitrarily it's told that that is the case at 7/6R in the geometric model. But that requires R, and R gives him a geometric horizon, and that's the thing he's trying to argue for him not having. So he's left at an impasse. He can't trust in R anymore. He can't just doggedly assert that light just is bending. Well, because the Earth is just a sphere, and therefore, of course, it's going through different refractive indexes. It's going around a curve. And we do see these things, so obviously it's refracted at 7/6R, giving me a geometric horizon that I'm telling you doesn't exist, we can't see, can't measure, and I can't arbitrarily place because we've got two. One isn't visible, one is. That's his totally untenable argument. So he argued for 2 straight hours, and I was more than happy to do it with him, because I wanted his pain shared, and he didn't know what the hell to do. And, you know, at the end, it's just ad hom me and call me a grocery delivery boy, when at the point that he completely loses the argument, because he's going round and round and round without an R to grasp hold of.
But in R, they must trust, and they will again.
They can't. You're not getting it, Owen. They can't.
Yeah, but they're
trust
still
in
going to
R.
do it, though.
They can't. That's
Yeah, they
that's
can.
10th man's point. Whether they realise it or not at this stage is not... You're saying they still will trust in it. Obviously, they're not all flat earthers, so yeah, that's self-evident. But appreciating how untenable it is going to dawn on them as time progresses, as they start to argue it. At the moment, it's stick your head in the sand and tell everyone the black swan's dead. So obviously Anthony pokes the bear, encourages Rumpus to come in, and we demonstrate just how not dead it is as we step on his neck. And the same applied to an orthodox. He's like, can't quite believe it, so he's going to come in and thrash and argue and try and stop the point that demolishes his assertion we've got two horizons, stop that question being asked. He didn't want to answer it. He doesn't want to justify not having the horizon that's in his model when he's declared that there's two and we've only got one. He's in an untenable argument, Arwin. And now he's appreciated that as of yesterday. He knows it. Cognitively, he's in cognitive dissonance, but he still knows it.
Yeah, that's correct. But look, we were already at that point 2 years ago when we discovered out of the blue that the curvature calculator actually ignores perspective. And at that point, the cognitive dissonance break, the machination was so blatantly obvious that after that point, everything became already untenable, and it became apparent just how devious and double thinking the ballers had become already.
But they had an excuse.
This new thing is a new frontline argument. Yeah, we gained the next trench, as it were.
Yeah,
we gained it, but
yeah, I agree.
It already was that bad.
I kind of agree with you. When you said it, I sort of the penny dropped on like, yeah, you're right. As soon as you expose Muppet vision and what it does with perspective, then that is also game over. You are right. But they still had an art.
Blatant,
I just want to make a point though, because at that point, when you point out that it's only geometry, it's not accounting for real world optics. At that point, they could still trust in R, because their rebuttal would be the calculator doesn't deal in optics; it's geometric. It doesn't need to deal in angular sizes. It's geometry. Don't you understand geometry? I've got this R value because we're standing on a sphere, and that's definitely true. I assume it. Well, now they can't do that.
Sorry, if I may. Yeah, the biggest problem the ballers ever made using their autographic view, side ball view thing is to actually suggest that you should compare that geometric model with actual views and photographs. That was their biggest mistake. Because if they hadn't done that and it just kept it compartmentalized, just to make you think of the world as a globe, as the thought experiment that thing really is, then, yeah, it wouldn't have crashed so bad.
I agree. I can't disagree with that. You're right. The globe died at the point of Muppet vision being exposed. You're correct. Highlighting optics versus geometry was the death. This is the last nail rather than the first nail. I'm not going to deny that, Arwin. You're correct.
You remember many times hearing this statement from the ballers when they would take an observation made by a flat earther or some observation they made where the bottom of something at a great distance might be hidden. They would say that's the amount of curvature we would expect to see. And I think I've been thinking about that recently, and it's just like, you've all heard that. It's like, but yeah, the picture in our observation in no way would match the mathematics that the globe is constrained by. But yet they'd say that's the amount of curvature we'd expect to see on a globe of whatever, even though it didn't match in any way mathematically what it should do for a physical globe of that size. But lately I've been thinking, well, maybe the truth is that they never expected to see that curvature either. And when we were asking them, where's the curve? Where's the curve? They weren't expecting to find it because they knew they couldn't. It's like they knew they couldn't. So they'd find something that looks something like that might be a curve, and they'd say that's what would be expected to see. We'd expect to see, and they'd say with refraction on a globe of whatever.
Giving them too much credit. They asked themselves, what does Google say we should see in terms of curvature? And they found their way to Mick West.
True.
Let me. That was a good talk you and Arvin had. Let me bring something into that mix. It would seem like with the Earth curve calculator, it was optics and refraction. Perspective. And now, more highlighted, whereas in the previous one, where it was all proven anyway. The geometry was kind of in the background. Now it's the geometry in the foreground, and it's the main thing. And then perspective is what they're now saying it is. So they're back to when you guys said, hey, you're not accounting for perspective. And they fought you on it with geometry in the background. Now geometry is in the foreground, and they want to go back to perspective like you proved, because you just killed with a dagger the geometry. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Or,
stones.
hold on, or, like when Chocolate was describing AB science, well, where was he when we were all arguing about how it's geometric and based on geometry, because that's the proof at ground level that Earth's a sphere? We argue, no, you should be accounting for optics. Things get smaller with distance. And they say, no, we don't need to account for optics. We're doing geometry. So that was the argument back in 2015. Well, meanwhile, scientists around the world start sniffing their own farts and then come across this argument a couple of years later. And like AB Science says, I wasn't actually talking about that geometry. I was talking about optics. And you go, oh, really? So what you were doing this whole time was detailing how we actually experience the world as opposed to your geometry, which is what is used at ground level to prove Earth's sphere-shaped. So you were talking about optics, really? Well, that's our argument, Sunshine. That's what we're telling you should be doing in your Earth curve maths that are geometric.
Yeah, that's the best part of this, is that their arguments have literally become our arguments. That's the worst part for them, because they have to say these things that they would have said before, right?
Yep. It's back and forth, the stepping stones. First, no, it's geometry. Oh wait, that didn't work out. Oh no, it's optics. Oh wait, that didn't work. Oh no, it's geometry. The stepping stones.
I remember who it was that told me that perspective is some bullshit, that flat Earth was made up, or it's only in a art class or something like that. It was P. Mars. I remember that. A long time ago, P. Mars saying something, arguing with us on here and saying, oh, perspective is just something in art class or something like that. That's not
right.
real.
I remember that. Yes.
You remember that?
Art class perspective.
Yeah. So
that's why.
Yeah.
That's why, Chocolate, when Nathan says "Welcome to Flat Earth," subliminally he's like pouring salt on the wound by saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're now citing my arguments as your arguments."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they
Good morning.
they gotta hate it if they gotta agree with Nathan.
Well, the thing is
Morning,
that even
Queen.
as
Good morning.
Nathan's saying it, they don't really get it. I think.
What's up, John?
Oh, goodness.
Hey, John.
Yeah, did you know you had Kosho just coming off his worldwide tour of showing gas pressure without a container by bringing in a container with gas pressure? That was just one of about 75 knucklehead moves he showed against Witsit. He's currently in your hangout.
It's right here. Going global.
There he is.
Hey, I wanted to invite you guys to something. I can't really stay long, but today's the equinox, as you know, and every twice a year we prove the radius by measuring shadows and stuff. Meeting a few people.
By measuring shadows.
Your audience is welcome to join.
He said it.
And you guys are welcome to join as well.
Wait,
so just all you have to
you prove the radius?
Can you stop rumpusing
by
in?
shadows.
Everybody shut up. Excuse me, I can't hear Kosho. Sorry, Kosho. Carry on.
No, I was just saying that all you have to do is you got to look up when your solar noon's going to be today or tomorrow. It doesn't matter which day you do it. But you just measure a stick, measure the length of the stick and the shadow, the length of the shadow, and do this at your solar noon, and just save those numbers. And if you get them, just come find me, and I'll add them to the list. And we'll,
really? Will you?
We'll prove the radius again.
You'd add them all to the list, would you? That's interesting. Have you ever done this yourself?
Yes, I have. I've done it 4 times now, 3 times.
Really? When last 4 years?
Last 2 years. So last September, last spring, and the September before that.
And how many locations did you do it in?
The one that I had I wrote a paper for, that was 23 locations.
23 locations.
That's right. That was a big one.
What's the actual what do you actually do, Kosho?
I was just getting to that. Precisely. What's the
Oh, no,
method?
that's
Explain how it all works.
Well, just as I explained just now, you're just measuring the shadow and the length. But when I did it that first time, I wanted to make a distinction between, what I would expect if it was a globe and if what I expect
hold on.
was
Sorry.
close.
Hold on. Kosho, stop a second. No. I don't need to know how you're going to have this little false dichotomy and assume a globe and what would happen on a globe. Is that how this works then? You will assume a globe and then assume your observations are taking place on a globe and then confirm that the observations prove you're on a globe. Is that how it works? But then you've also going to do it on a comparison flat earth model and compare the two. Is that how it works?
That first time I did it like that, I didn't do a flat earth model. I just imagined it was close and local and just how it would behave.
That would be a model, wouldn't it?
Beforehand.
Yeah, that would be a
But
model.
I'm not making predictions this
Yeah,
time.
that would be a model. I just need a yes. So what you did was you assumed two models and then affirmed the consequent with one of them.
Presupposed.
For the globe, we just had the one model, but for the flat plane, we had a model for each
That's a yes.
location.
So
we were making
yes.
predictions.
So yes. Just need a yes. Yes. What I did was I assumed two models, two pseudoscience reification models. Like we'll get some acknowledgement about the words I'm using in a moment, Kosho. You assumed two reification models, held them up in false dichotomy, and then you affirmed the consequent with one of them. So let's take that step by step. Do you first understand the first statement that you took two pseudoscience models and reified them? Do you understand that bit first? Just getting a silence from you, Kosho. We're going through my rebuttal to this horse shit that you think proves the globe, and my challenge is threefold, starting with a reification fallacy. Do you understand that you have utilised two reification models? Just need a yes, I understand, or a no, I don't understand what reification is. Or just total silence, Kosho. Which is it going to be? Yes, I don't understand, or total silence. Dumbfounded silence, it seems, is the answer so far.
Well, we could talk about fluids again.
Fluids? Yo! Kosho! I answered your shite that this equinox proves sphericity. I started by debunking it, pointing out that you're utilising two reification fallacies held up in false dichotomy and then affirming the consequent. That's three things. Number one, reification fallacy. Number two, false dichotomy fallacy. Number three, affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. Now I'm going to go through all of them. I'm not going to talk about fluid. I'm going to talk about you and your misapprehension that this proves a sphere by taking it apart on three levels. I want you to acknowledge the first level, which is that you are utilising a reification fallacy in two different instances. Do you know what a reification fallacy is? Yes or no?
I do. But
What is
you
it?
didn't hear the last
What
part of
is
the
a
test.
reification fallacy, Kosho?
Well, simply it's when you make something behave as if it were a real intangible thing when actually it's abstract.
Like a model?
Yeah.
Like
Turn
a model?
something that's not
Like
real into something that is real.
Kosho. So, like a flat Earth model with a local sun that you've got. Who's making all that bloody background noise? Someone in Discord, just kick this person off the server. Whoever made that background noise, you're getting ejected. Jesus,
You're
wrecked.
good. You're good. You're good. Go on.
Not good. I've got constant interruptions from idiots that don't know how to use a mute button and know how to eat a bag of crisps in the middle of a bloody live show. Right, Kosho. So you've got two reifications. One's a little model with a little light going above it, circling a little flat disc. The other one's a globe-shaped model. Both are reification fallacies that you're holding up as though they're the world, with the actual sun that we're experiencing in your measurements. They're not. That would be 2 times reification. I'm then going to move on to false dichotomy. So you understand that you've got two reifications.
No, not at all, Nathan.
Oh, really?
I
You
have
think we're standing on a
predictions
sphere
made
model
for
or we're
what
standing on a
they
flat
would
disk?
do.
Sorry, you think we're standing on one of those reifications? You think we're standing on a flat disk with little lights going above it in circles? You think we're standing on that, do you?
And that's where we get to the second part with the false dichotomy.
Excuse me, no, we're
That
not
was
on the
my
second part.
conclusion.
I'm taking apart your nonsense. You're just not being very tolerant of it. I'm not moving on until you say,
Maybe
no,
that's
I
because
appreciate.
those weren't the
Don't
only
talk
two
through me, idiot.
conclusions.
Don't talk through me. We're pointing out that it is absolutely without question a reification fallacy to assert that a model with little local lights above it, a little flat pancake that you've reified, is the actual sun and earth that I'm standing on. It's not. That would be a reification fallacy. So you don't think we're standing on a little flat pancake, or you do think we're standing on a little flat pancake with little local lights above it. You do think we're standing on a pancake with little local lights? No, we're not. That's reification, you moron.
Yeah, I never brought up pancakes, Nathan.
You said you were comparing it to a little model with local lights.
No, what I said was there was a local sun, a close and local sun on one of the predictions I made.
One of the predictions, you mean the model
Meaning
you're
that the
using?
math that
Well,
I
excuse
used
me,
to make the
excuse
prediction
me.
is different.
One of the stop. One of the predictions, you mean the model that you'd be using to compare to reality. That's what you mean when you say one of the predictions I'll be using is a pancake with little local lights. That would be your version of a flat Earth model. Would that be the flat Earth model that you're using when you're talking about your prediction?
Not at all, Nathan. And you know that if you...
So the sun is
talk over me-
local. So you think the sun is actually local. You know the distance to the sun. It's a little local light. That is what the sun is. You think that, do you? Or is that just what was in the
Nathan,
model?
It's so simple. If you'd listen to me, you'd get the answers.
I don't need any answers.
The
I
distinction I
already
made.
know this is reification. You just won't accept it. You're saying, no, the two different predictions I'm using, one is sphere-shaped, one is flat with local lights. They're not models. They're not being reified into the world we experience when we look at the behaviour of an equinox. You're not saying that what is on that sphere-shaped or pancake-shaped model, you're saying it's not being reified when you compare it and call it a prediction. Well, you are. That is precisely what you're doing. Making something that is abstract, in this case, pancake or sphere-shaped model, into the reality we experience during an equinox.
Yeah, Nathan. What I did was not think of it the way you just said. I thought of it the simplest way so there was no models needed. I thought of the globe and the math.
Globe's a model!
Equidistant
Oi! Stupid dickhead! Oi!
And the flat
Oi,
plane.
dickhead! Yo, brain dead.
This is the most-
Globe,
this is the punchline.
Globe is a model. It's called the heliocentric model. It's a model. That's a model, mate. When you say the globe,
Nathan.
that would be a model. The globe model?
I said
That's a model.
sphere, Nathan, and the math that compels.
Yeah, it's a model.
You didn't even listen to the third part, but
Sorry, I haven't got past
The
my
flat
first rebuttal
plane.
yet. I've got 3. I explained that to you. I listened to your bullshit. I asked you to expand on your bullshit. Bearing in mind, I've done this. Bearing in mind, I've also done this bullshit. I haven't attacked the bullshit itself. I don't need to. Because the premise you're basing your bullshit on is fallacious. Starting with a reification fallacy, followed up by a false dichotomy fallacy, and topped off with an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. There's 3 rebuttals. You refuse to accept that the globe, you're calling a prediction, is a model. It is the heliocentric model. And the very definition of reification is to turn a model into reality. Make that which is not concrete real. That's reification. You refuse to accept. You're guilty of it. Because according to you, it's not a model, it's a prediction. No, it's a reification fallacy that you refuse to accept.
You're so arrogant as not to listen to me, so there's no point in speaking to you, man.
I listen to you.
But
You've
I'm
got
glad
2
the people
models that
who
you're
want to
comparing.
participate in
How
this
dare
test
you tell me I'm not
participate
listening
in
to
some of the
you?
numbers.
Sorry, you're saying I'm ignorant and I didn't listen.
Yeah,
So you
you're
don't
talking
have...
through you, man.
Arrogant.
No,
You're
I
arrogant.
did
You're talking
listen.
right
Like the other
through you,
day,
dude.
we were arguing
I did listen.
fluids, and you got it completely wrong, and you probably realize later on, oh shit,
He's
I was
still
tired.
talking.
I must just I got
Going
that
right
wrong.
through you.
I know he's
Can't
talking
hear you.
right through me. He's muting me.
Kosho, you invoked the globe model first sentence. You realize
Yeah,
that, right?
so listen to what I said, and then maybe
No, we
you
heard
get it
what
right.
you said. That's why you're in the
Kosho,
position you are now.
Kosho, hold on,
Your
Chocolate.
first
Kosho, we
sentence
heard
you
you.
said.
We heard
He's
you,
talking
And I
Kosho.
said
through
in
you.
the other instance, I assumed a flat plane with a close and local sun.
Can you
That's
hear
a
two people talking
model!
to you, Kosho?
You dumb shit!
Yeah, the people talking through me. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you're
Absolutely.
talking through
Talking
us when
through
we
you.
point out it's a model over and
Yes.
over again. A
I've
close
been
and
talking
local
once.
sun on a
Nathan talks
pancake Earth
motion.
is a model, you dipshit. As is the globe model, a model. Now I'm having to use redundancy. The terminology itself, heliocentric model, globe model, pancake model with close and local lights. These are all models that you're reifying when comparing to something we experience that the sun does. That's reification and you refuse to accept it. And all you're doing is telling us that we're talking through you while you rumpus that conclusion and say that we haven't listened. I listened. I listened and heard how you're going to compare two models. That's false dichotomy. I heard how you reified two models into what we experience when there's an equinox. And I heard how the conclusion makes it a globe. If the Earth is a sphere, we will experience this light show. We experience this light show. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. That's a formal logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. Having held up a false dichotomy, comparing two models, having reified two models, reification fallacy. Now, the fact that you refuse to accept it doesn't mean I didn't listen to your shit about the equinox. I'm not ignorant. I'm not deaf. I did listen. I can hear you. You don't have to talk through the conclusion that I'm not ignorant or deaf and can summarise your exact point about the equinox. I did listen. I cleared the air for you. I told other people like Chocolate and everyone else to shut up so I could absolutely hear what you had to say about the equinox. Bearing in mind, I've tracked the sun on the equinox. I've done it twice with multiple participants live all across the plane. Now, I've done that too. So I'm speaking from a position of authority when it comes to tracking the sun on the equinox, because I've done it live. Nobody has done that. I'm the only person to have run that event. You haven't done that, I have. So I can assure you in this regard, I am definitely more knowledgeable about what happens when you track the sun during the equinox from multiple locations at the same time live. I've done that, you have not. You won't provide me 25 evidences of you tracking it live, because you haven't, no one has. But I understand the false dichotomy, reification fallacies, and the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy you will use in conclusion. For this garbage, I listen to. I'm not deaf. I'm not ignorant. How dare you accuse me of so, simply because you refuse to accept the first fallacy in a list of three. That would be reification, which you are guilty of when you hold up two models.
I think he may have boot scooted.
Yeah, of course, because it was either constantly interrupt what that was just said. He can't listen to that summary. Neither could Unorthodox yesterday. When it came to the point where there's a prolonged silence after the summary, all I needed was that, 25 seconds to summarise his three fallacies to him and point out that he is reifying two models, something he refused to accept. Then he rumpus the shit out of it, constantly. No muting, he didn't get muted,
yes, sir.
But every member of the audience heard the constant chaos that came in lieu of that little conclusion. The only reason I got to make it on that occasion was because they'd fucked off.
They didn't hear the half of it. I mean, we couldn't hear anything inside the Discord.
Yeah. Roll on the string of bullshit accusations that I mute these fucktards. So didn't Kosho do well? About as well as he did on Witsit. With Witsit, rather.
The Brain Surgeon Kosho, 16 March 2020.
But the horizon's a physical location. The geometric horizon is a physical location that you're not expected to see.
Not expected to see? Really? From the U.S. DoD, Department of Defense, horizon. In general, the apparent or visible junction of the Earth and sky, as seen from any specific position. Also called the apparent, visible, or local horizon. From National Geographic, local horizon, also called the geometrical horizon, is the visible boundary between the Earth and sky. So, according to Kosho, we're not expected to see the visible geometric horizon. You really can't make this stuff up, folks. My word.
You know who had exactly the same rhetoric? AB Science. Suddenly,
Just going to say it.
it's an imaginary horizon. Imaginary geometric lines being drawn. Not expected to see it. We'll never see it. Like, well, why do all the definitions of horizon and the maths that claim it blocks things say we do see it?
Why do we even have a calculator telling us where it is? We've never seen it and can't see it. I don't even get it.
I mean, with AB Science, I can only assume he's stupid because he literally mid-flow of his bullshit throws up a white swan, the same BLMSB white swan that's used in the example presentation that QE did in the first instance. He threw that up, and you're like, my God, are you really this stupid? Because when he throws it up, it's not like he launches into the geometrics. He just boldly declares that that's indicative of a sphere Earth. That's his justification. You're like, that's what, indicative that all swans are white?
Well, you know the worst thing about that little observation that he threw up there, that AB Science threw up there, is that's one of those, if I'm correct, that's one of those 1 foot observations that has a blockage in it. If a camera is at 1 foot high, what is the chances that on most days that you're going to have a 1 foot and more swell height? You know what I mean? It's like, how could that's not even a white swan, if you know what I mean, from their point of view. It's like, how often do you have a 1 foot and more swell height? Because if you have a 1 foot and more swell height and you have a 1 foot camera observation height, you're not going to see him.
Correct.
It's like, yeah, it's stupid that they keep on using this. You know?
Yeah, it's akin to digging a little hole, sticking the camera in, and saying, well, obviously that's Earth curve. You're like, well, no, but there's something obscuring the camera. Like when people do demonstrations of things reducing in angular size or resolution, and they go, well, no, your camera's just below the table. It's like, what, like it could be below a wave? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. AB Science, he was a sore loser. That's why he came back for that rebuttal, and he just made it worse on himself. Just made it worse. He should have just gone away, you know. But now he's going to have to kind of probably just either make a third attempt at it, which would be really, really bad. I don't know if he can be worse than he already is, or just pretend that it's beneath him and turn his back on it. You know, this stuff. You know the way they do that nonsense. It's kind of condescending stuff because they can't deal with the argument.
Well, I've been anticipating that reply, and I'm searching these terms daily. It's not like I'm subscribed to AB Science. The reason I caught his video was because it coincided with one of my searches for rebuttals for this subject, and there he is. Now, true to form, they all do the same thing. They provide a rebuttal, it gets smashed into oblivion, or we utilise their own words to point out how they're debunking their own religion, and then a few days later they respond again. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is because it's typically the case that the second response is far more useful than the first, because when they're on the back foot, having been obliterated, that's when they let out all the telling ad homs and the declarations that also destroy their religion, but in a slightly more polished and more clear manner. So brilliant. Same with Mr. Sensible, right? He's dug his own grave. He said, well, at best you've disproved the radius. And then he comes back with, no, what I meant by that was, it's only 1 mile bigger. You know, opening the floodgates for people to go, no, let's actually do the maths then. Oh, you want to do the maths, do you? Ace. Oh, I'm waiting for the opportunity to show you that, no, based on the black swan, you've got an Earth half the size of the sun in your heliocentric model. Moron, can't you scale? Weren't you criticising us for not being able to scale? It's the same with all of them. Who's the other guy? The guy with the upside down head. What's his name? The guy who went to Hillbilly Blue Balls.
Blue Marble Science?
No, not Blue Marble Science. The guy who went to Hillbilly Blue Balls. The scientist, astronomer guy.
Faulkner. Dan
Faulkner. He did exactly the same thing. Oh, these flat earthers, they're so stupid. They think the earth is flat because they've done a cursory Google search and they can't find their way to me. That's what they should have been doing, finding their way to me, because I'm amazing. I'm Daniel Faulkner. Yeah, stupid idiots and their Google searches. Hey, Daniel Faulkner, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Stone cold silence, followed by a Google search, followed by him citing the first thing that comes up, which is Hillbilly Blue Balls. So his second response, 10 times better than his first. His first was a stony silence, but it triggered him to do a cursory Google search, the very thing he's criticised the people he's opposing. Just it beggars belief. They all do it. They open their big mouths, get smashed on the black swan, and then their second response is the thing that digs their biggest hole. In this case, AB science, same exact principle. Oh, well, I'll explain how. Don't you understand, you stupid idiots? The horizon's being refracted. Here's a detailed explanation for refraction, you morons. I come along and go, no, your refraction's based on geometry. Your geometry gives you a horizon that's geometric, and according to you, you can't see the geometric horizon. He comes back with, oh, do you get it, Nathan? We can't see the geometric horizon, Nathan. That's his response. You're like, oh, wow, mate, you're just digging that hole so much deeper. Wonderful. Really, this stupid.
You know the argument you have.
These guys picked a real bad time to try to cut their teeth in this argument. I don't really get the timing behind this, but both Mr. Senseless and AB No Science, I don't know. I don't know where they came from, but they picked a pretty bad time to try to cut their teeth, and they're definitely the wrong argument. Because the first thing I hear from this guy is, at best, you've disproven the radius. Thanks, man. Not a problem. We'll accept that.
Go ahead, Brian.
And this guy, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, it's okay. I was just saying, you know the thing they're throwing out there at the moment, where they're kind of teetering on it. They're not all behind it, but they're kind of testing the water, where they're talking about maybe the radius is just bigger, so there's a bigger globe. Well, if you have a 4-inch wide balloon blown up, let's say you blow up a balloon to 4 inches wide diameter, and then you blow up a bit more, so it's 4.5 inches in diameter. That means every single thing got bigger, right? So for the radius to be bigger, right, Ireland would have to start becoming the size of France.
Kershaw's back.
Can you turn your mic down a bit? You're very, very hot.
Hey guys.
Hello. That flatsoid.
You one and only.
Is this better?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, Kershaw's back. I see him pop in Discord.
Today we concluded. I just gave my conclusion after he'd gone. That's fine.
Maybe we can ask him about how he disproved gas pressure without a container by bringing in a container to which it gets it.
I guarantee that none of you are going to answer this question because you don't have the balls. But in that container,
yeah, that's a challenge.
Try it.
Hey,
let's find out. We'll find out who has the balls.
Scared. We're so scared.
So in that container, what's separating the vacuum and the gas pressure? There's a gas pressure.
You can't
in the
have
vacuum in
gas
that
pressure in a container and call it a vacuum. You friggin' moron.
Hold on a second. Just 1 second, QE. Do you want to just ask your question again?
Yeah, there's a container. QE knows what it is. He's seen it. But there's a gas pressure in there and there's a vacuum in there. Both these two things are in there.
Sorry.
What's
Then it's not a
separating them?
vacuum.
So pressure's gradient then.
Sorry. Do you want to just repeat the housekeeping question we've asked probably in excess of 1,000 times? Do you know the housekeeping question this responds to?
Ooh, can I ask him?
Yeah, go ahead. Chocolate.
Osho, how can you have gas pressure without a container?
Weight. You simply just have weight.
And that's
That's one way to do
demonstrated with...
How do you weigh a gas?
You can do what his name? Torricelli did, and use mercury. Use mercury in a tube. You can weigh that
In a tube.
In a tube.
That's right.
That
Flipped it upside down. You saw how much the atmosphere would push on it. Apparently, it pushes 760 millimeters worth.
No container then.
Hold on. So you're saying there's a pressure that forces something that's not gas to react in a certain way, kind of like a thermometer tests temperature with the mercury moving up, right?
No, not necessarily. In that observation, the mercury is expanding.
No, I'm using it as a comparison for the benefit of the audience to understand that there's a mechanism taking place that translates gas pressure into the movement of something.
Sure, before he did it with mercury, he did it with water, but you had to use a lot more water, so he did it with mercury.
So that's qualifying something with a measurement, translating one force into another, pressure into a movement of a liquid. And you're saying that that demonstrates weight. How is that so?
Absolutely.
Well, explain it to us.
Well, Galileo didn't believe him either, so he did this. He showed it to him. And then he showed it to him on different elevations and how it changed. And sure enough, the only way for the mercury to be pushed up the tube, physically being pushed up the tube, was for there to be something pushing it, this being the atmosphere.
Sure, that proves that there's a pushing. It doesn't prove that there's a weight, given that gas behaviour is pretty well understood these days. Gas expands in all directions. And you equate that to pressure. It's kind of a false way of describing it when you describe it as weight, because weight's one direction. It's down. Whereas gas expands in all directions.
That's right.
So you qualify that with pressure as opposed to weight. That's how you qualify gas. How much pressure there is.
Yeah, I tried to bring up the hydrostatic equilibrium thing before last time that we got into fluids. But the thing about the hydrostatic
I'd like you to bring
equilibrium
that up.
is it's
Why don't you go ahead and
equilibrium
define
between
that?
two.
Do you want to define?
Yeah, it's the equilibrium between two opposing forces.
With the citation, we don't want you
outward
making
one that
shit
you're
up.
expressing. Sure.
Sorry, but are you
The
not
outward
just
one that you're
explaining
expressing is the
pressure,
air.
Hold
yeah.
on, Flatsoid. Just Quantum Eraser and Kosho. So do you have
Yeah,
a
we want-
citation?
We
Yeah,
want
I do. Just give me
you
one
to define. Shut. Oh my God. Provide citation for hydrostatic pressure, please.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. Hold on.
And then I want you to read it.
Oh, you read it. I'm going to read it.
I'm not. That's your proof. I'm not reading your proof, counselor.
I'm pulling it up in my bookmarks. I might just search for it. Hold on.
It's all right. Take your time.
We are going to get back to his vacuum gas pressure within a container, correct?
That's already been addressed, hasn't it? Chocolate explained to him that.
Well, sort of. I asked you all the questions. Nobody answered.
Sorry.
We didn't ask you.
My bad.
Not you, Nathan. I'm asking you, are we going to get back to Kosho's gas pressure vacuum within a container?
I was under the apprehension that it was already dealt with when Chocolate asked him the actual housekeeping question. How can you have gas pressure without a container? he then went on to detail something that had a container in the first breath, so that I thought was dealt with. He's got a container in his demonstration.
And we're clear that you can't have a vacuum with gas pressure in the vacuum, right? Then it wouldn't make it a vacuum. You understand that, Kosho?
Yeah, well, in that case, the vacuum is separated from the gas pressure.
Oh, within the same container.
Exactly. That's why I've used that example.
Can
So
you give
that's
us the
gas
core
pressure in a...
values of each position inside that container, please?
That's something you're gonna have to do, Mr. QE. But I pull up the hydrostatic equilibrium.
You want me to demonstrate your proof? Is that what you're saying?
This is the minutia of what you're asking.
The minutia between your ears. But come on, let's get with hydrostatic pressure.
Yeah, it's right there.
Can't wait for this.
You said you wanted to read it.
Yeah, go ahead. Present your evidence.
Are you happy that's squared away, though?
Oh, it's right there.
In live stream, I believe.
Oh, read it.
It's there.
Could
It's
you
there
please
for
read it
everyone
for
to
us,
see.
Kosho? I'm
If
not
you
in
guys want to know what
Discord.
it
I'm
is,
not reading it.
audience, hydrostatic equilibrium. Check it out. It's good stuff.
Oh my God.
QE, if you want to read it, it's right there.
Counselor. Present your case.
Kosho, just read the citation,
presented
man.
it
What's
already.
wrong with you?
You've just said
Tell us
hydrostatic
where the
pressure.
citation is from, the source,
I've
and
got
then
an
read it,
audience,
please.
Kosho. Kosho, there's an audience. Obviously, we would need to hear it read out.
Yeah, well, I've said what it was. The hydrostatic equilibrium is describing two opposing forces, one that's acting upwards and outwards like you described what the air does, but the equilibrium is the fact that there's weight pressing it down, and it's the equilibrium is describing why it's not leaving.
Wow, that's
Same thing.
deep.
The same thing
Was that
happens
the
with the
citation?
sun.
And where's that
Pressure in
from?
the sun.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. What? Do you want to just now name the citation you've just read? What was that cited from?
Oh, was it from? This one says atysdu.edu.
Andrew Thomas Young, hey?
I guess so.
So you read the cite. Shut the fuck up. You read the citation. There's no citation in Discord. Do you know the difference between a citation and a reference?
What? No, I posted this. I mean, it's got a lot of.
I'll just repeat your question for you. Hold on a second, Kosho. Sorry to interrupt, Kosho. The question you're asked: do you know the difference between a citation and a reference?
Sure.
What's the difference?
Citation, maybe specific words or quote, whereas a reference would be referencing the content in or general reference. But it doesn't matter.
Hold on. Let's not get. Hold on. Let's not get your assessment of whether or not it matters. I believe we asked you for a citation. What is it you've provided? Is it a reference or a cite?
You can ask me for all sorts of things.
Calm down, Kosho. I know this is embarrassing, Kosho. I will ask my question unimpeded. Hopefully, I won't get muted continually. You were asked for a citation. What have you posted? Is your post a citation or a reference?
All right. Well, since you guys are gonna waste time doing this, I'll read the top part of this.
Have you cited it yet? Sorry,
that you guys don't want to read.
Kosho.
I'll read it.
Kosho, we need to check that what you're reading is actually what's written down. I'm not saying you'll do this, but plenty of others have read and then continue to read after the citation finishes. So we want to check that what you're reading is actually what's written down. That's why we're asking for.
That's why I fucking posted it, man.
Sorry, you didn't answer my question. You said we were wasting time. Kosho, you didn't answer my question. I asked you if what you posted was a reference, and you said we're wasting time. Answer my question. Did you post a citation, like the one you're about to read? Or did you
I
post a
posted
reference?
the thing I'm about to read to you.
So you posted a citation.
Yeah, so if you open up the thing I posted to you...
So he just said yeah.
You'll see the
Sorry,
very
he just
top
said yeah.
part,
He just
I'm gonna
said
read
yeah.
to you.
Let's just get some clarity.
Yeah.
Did he post a citation? I just asked him and he said yeah.
He did not.
You liar.
If you open it up... And
Sorry, Kosho.
Okay.
Kosho, you just clarified the difference between citation and reference. And now you're about to tell me about how he opened the reference. So you haven't cited it.
Yeah. If
So
open
you
it
didn't
up,
cite it.
You'll be
I had
reading the same
Kosho.
page I am.
Kosho, don't mute me. I'm berating you for your lie. I asked you if you gave.
Man, this
You
is
are
your
a
show,
liar,
right? You don't need to
Kosho.
learn about this. You wanna berate
Kosho. You're a liar, and I'm going to berate you for it. Don't fundy mute me while I do so. I asked you specifically if you had cited it. There was a long pause, and you said, yeah, blah, 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 blah. So your answer was in the affirmative that you had cited it. You're a liar. You know the difference between a citation and a reference. What you posted was a reference. And then when I asked if you cited it, you said yes. You are a liar. You did know the difference. You liar. Why are you lying to us? You haven't cited it, you liar. You know the difference. You haven't cited anything. So either get on with citing it, i.e. post the bit you're actually going to reference, yeah? The cited quote from the reference. That's what we asked you, and you said, yeah, because you're a liar. So don't lie, cite it. Or go away to some circle jerk asshole factory where they'll tolerate you making it up and posting a link to a reference and then talking through the person who's telling you off for lying, which is what you're doing. Fundy muting the person berating you. Now, unless the next thing out of your mouth is an apology, you've got no place interrupting me. Another protracted silence from the liar. You did not cite it. You lied when asked if cited it. You said yes, having clarified the difference between a reference and a citation, making you an outright liar, Kosher. You realise that? You're an outright liar?
Nathan, you're a complete coward.
You are an outright liar. You overtly lied to us. That's why, Kosho, you were took through the process of clarification regarding citation and reference. Then there was protracted silences on 2 separate occasions. Then you went, yeah, and tried to scurry along like a little cockroach with your next point obfuscating your lie. You're a deceitful little scumbag. Liar, Kosho. Another protracted silence. You're a liar. This is what we get when we summarise the point that they've lied. They just run away,
Nathan,
scurry away like a cockroach.
Realize, like in real time, can you feel how retarded you're being?
That's an ad hominem attack. I've just demonstrated to my audience unequivocally that you're a liar. You knew the difference between citation and reference. I very specifically stopped you rumpusing the conversation, tied you down so you heard. Did you cite it, Kosho? That which you're about to open from the reference link that you gave us, not a citation? And you said yeah, and then tried to scurry along like a little cockroach. You're a liar and a scumbag. Don't call me any terms that aren't qualified by the actual lie that you've just told. You're not going to demonstrate any of your ad homs.
Kosho, I don't understand why you don't just cite what you're about to cite.
I don't understand why the fucking three of you are being lazy as fuck. Just open the link, man.
Listen,
just open the link. That's what's going to happen.
You just open the reference, man. It's just saying just open the reference. I've called it a citation. No. It's not what I've been asked for. I've clarified the difference. And yeah, I've given you a fucking reference. So just open the fucking reference that I said was a citation when asked specifically if it was a citation. I went, yeah, now just open the fucking reference. That's what he's saying. Because he's a total wanker. And a liar. Exactly. And a scumbag. And now he's talking through me. Fundy muting. He doesn't want the audience to hear that he's a scumbag liar. And it absolutely clearly qualified with a demonstration that's been recorded of him lying. You're a liar, Kosho. All of you scumbags that come here, Brenda, Rumpus, Ruhif, you're all liars. You're no exception. You overtly lied to us. Now you don't want to accept that fact. You want to swear at us and tell us to get on with the argument. No, we'll stay here pointing out your lie, because you're a liar. And that's what I'm going to focus on. I don't give a shit about the argument anymore. You're a demonstrated liar,
I know you
Kosho.
don't, Nathan, because you know I'm right.
Oh, really? You think this is about right and wrong about the reference that you called a citation when you lied? No, it's about you being an overt liar. That's what this is about.
I'm going to pummel that right after he's done with your lying ass.
Why did you lie to us about you citing it when you didn't, Kosho?
How important is that to you, man?
What, that I don't get lied to by my opponents? Yeah, it's critical. It's critical that you don't lie to me overtly after clarifying you absolutely know the difference. Saying that you've cited something when you haven't is a lie, making you a liar. So we're dealing with liars. That's why it's important, Kosho, because we're dealing with liars. You're one of them.
Yeah, blissful liars at that.
You're a
Imagine
lying
if a grown
sack
baby
of shit,
man
Kosho.
said,
Your mother
"You'll
should
find
be
this in
ashamed of
me
you.
too."
Your mother should
Oh,
be
yeah, guess
ashamed
what?
of
Also
you, you
open it
lying
for me
sack of
too.
shit. I hope your mother disowns you for your lies. I'd be ashamed if I was your parent. You're a scumbag liar. That's what you'll be. Documented scumbag, dirty liar. I hope you're proud of yourself. You're a scumbag.
Oh, so you
So
realise that gas
sad.
can't have hydrostatic pressure, don't you?
Don't ruin it for him. You're taking my thunder now, and I'm eating
I'm done with him.
breakfast.
I'm done
Sorry.
berating him. Feel free, QE. Maybe you'll run away.
You got an answer yet, QE?
Oh,
You're smart guy.
Kosho, why do you keep on coming back, man? It's,
Hold on,
You
just
you got
QE.
nothing left.
Hold on,
You got
Owen.
nothing
Just
left.
QE. Just
Come on.
QE.
QE's
I'm sorry,
like deafened him.
I'm eating breakfast, man.
Can I take that
with
one then?
hydrostatic equilibrium?
Bill.
Whoever's got the answer for that question, I'm all ready for it.
What question?
What question? You didn't support your claim yet. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
In a container or any kind of magnetic containment, what's separating the gas pressure and the vacuum?
Hydrostatic.
What?
Read your citation.
God, I'm really sorry, QE. I did that to you. Ignore that, audience members. That's my fault.
What'd you do?
Mate, you talk with your mouth
Let me
full.
What is your actual claim, Kosho?
He hasn't read it out yet. He hasn't read out his supporting
I've only
evidence.
been answering questions.
What-
Somebody asked me, this is one of our housekeeping questions. How do you have gas pressure without a container? I answered it simply,
Yeah, but
and
no,
they're
you-
not happy with the answer. Even though
Are
it's
you
just a very simple
referencing-
answer.
Hang on.
You answered it by putting gas pressure in a container.
I
That was
answered
your
it by
answer.
saying wait, is what I said.
Wait.
Yeah, no. And
No,
I
that-
qualify.
that's no pressure, not
Hold on.
weight.
We're going in a circle jerk. Yeah, and I went through that, didn't I? So gas expands in all directions. Weight is only down. Qualifying by the movement of something that you make mechanically move with pressure doesn't mean that it translates into a downward force when it expands in all direction. Now, you then went on to
That's
hydrostatic
right.
equilibrium, and we haven't yet had you read out your citation. We had a lie
Right, whose fault
in
is that,
between that you're now talking through. So at that point you started to lie because you're a liar. That's where we got to so far. But the idea of this weight wasn't
Right,
in
that
any
was
way
more
qualified
important
other
to
than
me reading
the
it.
word hydrostatic tagged on with equilibrium. But no explanation or any reading of any citations or supporting evidence has actually taken place yet. Just a lie in between. That's all that's happened.
Yeah, Nathan. Because you wanted to talk about something else.
No, we wanted
And
you
if
to
you say
read your
otherwise, you're the
citation.
liar.
No, we made it clear. We wanted you to cite your supporting evidence and then read it. That's all we asked for. Not unreasonable in a debate that you cite your source and read from it. That's not unreasonable. But that's we've had what?
It's not unreasonable
10
that you
minutes.
just open the link,
10 minutes
Nathan.
of this kind of shit with you interrupting, us summarising, you lying, not citing your source, not reading from it, and letting us read along with you. That's all we're asking for. Not unreasonable. Perfectly acceptable request from someone making a claim. about hydrostatic
It's not a
equilibrium
fucking
that they
acceptable
cite their source,
call, Nathan.
don't constantly interrupt their opponent while they summarise the 10 minutes of bullshit
Nathan,
we have
there's no
had
choice but to
simply for asking you to back your bullshit. Non-stop interruption, and now it continues as the non-stop interruption, rather than you just reading your cited source and us reading along with you. That's all we're asking for. It's not unreasonable, but this is what we've got instead.
Then Gob is still going.
Yeah, you're talking through me. Yeah, I'm summarising the point to my audience, and you're talking through it non-stop. We've had a lie, we've had a load of obfuscation, and every time I type to summarise that, you start talking through it. Because we haven't had you reading out your citation, you haven't even given us a citation, you lied about giving us a citation, all we're asking for is a citation to be read. That's it.
Nathan, you're sitting there complaining about me not explaining it while you're talking, not giving me a chance to talk. If you want me to explain it, close your mouth.
No, we don't want you to explain it, you dumb shit. You're deaf. Read your citation.
Goodness, you're a retard.
You are, you're thick. Deaf, thick, stupid, can't listen, talks through everything so he doesn't hear it, and then claims it hasn't been said because he's talked through it at length like an ignorant twat. Then lies about what he's being asked when he has got open air to answer, after leaving long pauses, protracted silences, claims he's being interrupted when he's got an opportunity to present his actual citation. No, we don't want you to explain anything, you dumb shit. You can't even listen.
Nathan, when I'm saying explain it, I'm saying I'm going to read it. I told you I'm going to read the fucking first paragraph.
Oh, go on, swear at me, you little bitch. Yeah, get angry with me, swear at me, take out your aggression, share your pain. You've been demonstrated to be a complete fuckwit with Witsit, and you've done it here. And a liar.
Nathan?
And a liar. Fuckwit, liar,
Nathan,
retard,
you can sit
thick,
there and
deaf.
talk shit, man, but you didn't even know what a fluid was, to the point to where you made yourself look like an asshole.
Sorry, you've told Witsit gets it. You can demonstrate gas pressure without a container in a container. You think you're going to demonstrate me to be stupid here? I think not.
You don't know your fluids either, Kosho.
Yeah, when he asked you to bring up a citation, you said, I'm pulling it up. You said, I'm pulling it up, and then you show a reference, not a citation. You did completely lie.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, he's just said that's fine. No, that's an outright lie, Kosho. Not fine. You think your lies are fine? No, that's a lie. Not fine, not acceptable. The work of a complete scumbag. That's you. A scumbag liar. Not fine, you piece of shit.
That's fine. Ready for me to read?
No, it's not fine, you scumbag liar. How many times do you want me to tell you? Lying's not acceptable. Your mother did a very poor job. If you think lying is fine, tell your mother from me she did a poor job of raising you, because you think it's fine to lie. So your mother's a poor mother, and you're a scumbag. Do you hear me, scumbag? It's not fine to lie. I would have thought your mother would have taught you that.
I would have thought your mother would have taught you not.
Oh, are you going to add on my mum? My mum taught me it wasn't acceptable to lie. Your mum has taught you it's fine.
It's fine, Nathan. You ready for me?
No, it's not fine, you scumbag shithead. Yeah? It's not fine to lie here. That's not tolerable at all.
Well, I would probably stop doing it then.
So that's typical projection. Having been overtly demonstrated to be an outright liar, he tells me that I should stop.
Absolutely, Nathan.
Yeah, that's another projection times 2. A psychological disorder where you project your failings onto me. You are an overt liar. I am not.
Yeah, so no citation.
Sounds like a classic
You're
case
ready
of
now,
double
Nathan.
down syndrome.
I've got it pulled up.
A reference.
If you open up to page 1 on this one-page thing that I posted, it says hydrostatic equilibrium. Basic ideas. The principle of hydrostatic equilibrium is that the pressure at any point in a fluid at rest, whence hydrostatic, is just due to the weight of the overlying fluid. As pressure is just a force per unit area, the pressure at the bottom of a fluid is just the weight of a column of the fluid, 1 unit of area in cross section. So hopefully,
continue.
I don't know how else to
continue
send it to you, but
you seem to have sorry, there's an objection. See, because we had your cited source up on screen, it seems you stopped reading at an appropriate juncture that you've been challenged on. Do you want to continue reading?
I mean, sure. The principle is simple to apply to incompressible fluids, such as most liquids, water.
Stop.
Note that water and other common...
You can stop now.
That's weird. It's weirder to stop in the middle of a sentence than it is to stop at the end of one,
He said it's applicable to incompressible liquids. Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is gas compressible?
Yeah, gas is not an incompressible liquid.
That's right.
So when we ask for gas pressure without a container, what you've done is equivocate with something that's an incompressible liquid. That seems very fallacious.
You understand that that's not the end of the sentence?
What, the one that you didn't want to read? The one that you were challenged, rumpused, and then had to be asked to read when you stopped? That sentence?
Yeah, you guys had me stop, but it's not only talking about incompressible.
Yeah, because that is the friggin' end of your nonsense bullshit. You don't even know what you're reading. What does static mean?
No, I do. It says it's simple to apply to incompressible fluids. That's all it's saying.
Good point. That's a good point.
It only applies to incompressible fluids.
What does static mean? Sorry, good question. I'd never spotted that. Genius. QE, I love you. What does static mean?
Static is usually going to mean, well, in this case, it means unchanged.
Not moving.
Sure.
Does gas move?
Equilibrium.
At high speed, randomly in all directions? Does it move, gas?
You guys are stopping in the middle of a sentence. So you're going to be confused for the rest of your life.
That's gas move.
I want clear air for him to hear me.
Yeah,
hopefully he won't talk through the question. We'll see. Maybe he'll talk through this question indefinitely. I'll count him off from this point.
I said yes already.
I haven't asked the question and impeded. We'll see if that yes is another way of impeding the question, which will get asked at least once without interruption from Kosho. Does gas move at high speeds in all directions, or is it static?
That's a false dichotomy, but I'll go ahead and, for your sake, just say it first.
No, that's fine. When I claim fallacy, obviously I have to explain.
Is a false dichotomy.
It's going to talk through me, of course. It's time for mute button time every time I respond to anything ever from this point on. Second interruption so far. We'll keep counting them off, Kosho. I do love it. So, Kosho, you've claimed a false dichotomy. I'd like to know the two things and how they're being held in false dichotomy. Go.
Sure. You said, is gas moving in all directions extremely fast? Right? That was one. And
let's answer.
Or is it static?
Yeah, no. Let's answer each of them first. Hold on.
Right.
Hold on. Kosho. We need to qualify whether or not that's false first, don't we now? So, is that a false statement?
Yes, it is, Nathan.
So gas does not move at high speeds in all directions. No, Kosho, you don't understand. Kosho, don't talk through me. That's the third time. I know this is embarrassing because you're wrong. Gas no, that's the fourth time. Fundy mute time, audience. It's time because he's being demolished. Maybe claim we should be on a neutral platform while you rumpus the shit out of my rebuttal. No, Kosho, you're incorrect. Gas definitely moves randomly and freely in all directions at high speed. It's not static. You're wrong. So when you claim false dichotomy, you were just pulling that bullshit fallacious term out your ass, because this isn't a false dichotomy. Gas definitely does move at high speed randomly in all directions, not just down. So, Kosho, you're wrong. And clearly, by declaration and incorrect nature of your assertion, it demonstrates that you don't understand how gas behaves. You don't understand what gas is and what it does. You're demonstrably ignorant when it comes to gas, mate.
Yeah, Nathan, all I gotta say is your audience can look up hydrostatic equilibrium. Because
we did. You read it out. It's static, unlike gas. false equivalence fallacy that you are guilty of. Didn't you understand? Are you deaf, ignorant of the rebuttal? Too prideful to accept where you're wrong, that gas is not static? You're going to circle jerk us back to hydrostatic equilibrium when gas is definitely moving at high speeds? You're just ignorant of gas behaviour. You think it's a fluid? And you're going to tell me that I embarrassed myself when I explained to you last time that gas isn't fluid? It's not fucking static in your hydrostatic equilibrium.
You mean liquid, Nathan, liquid.
Oh, fuck, I've done it again. Liquid. Bastard. I do it every time.
Sorry.
Not a liquid. Arbitrarily classified as fluid. Every time.
Fluids are defined by liquids and gases. I've told you this.
Look,
plasma for that matter.
My error in terminology isn't going to be dwelled on, moron. This isn't your opportunity to pipe up with your nonsense. You've just been smashed. Yes, I said fluid where I meant to say liquid. It doesn't mean you can rumpus the shit out of me while I correct my mistake. I will be given an opportunity.
You're talking nonstop.
Shut up! So where I meant to say liquid, I said fluid. I've made that mistake on countless occasions. It's just an accidental error. Nevertheless, gas does not behave like liquid. Liquid, when describing fluid-like behaviour of a gas when forced together so that it can be incompressible like a liquid, would mean you can describe it in certain circumstances as fluid. However, in your example with hydrostatic equilibrium, you've got a behaviour that is uncharacteristic of gas, i.e. it's not static, and you said it is. It's a false dichotomy. But then we clarified one of the terms.
I didn't say it is.
Oh, sorry. I'm not getting the chance to summarise this bullshit position again, is it? Kosho's time to summarise his incorrect assertion and ignorance of gas. Clearly it's your turn to talk, isn't it, Kosho?
Yeah, sure. I didn't say that it was static. What I said was...
hydrostatic equilibrium. That's what you said, you complete Mongol.
You got to be some special kind of stupid.
He did just say that, did you, Kosho?
He did just say that.
Yeah, he did.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I said it was a false dichotomy.
You didn't say
false
hydrostatic equilibrium,
not just
Kosho.
two choices.
Kosho, you didn't say that
Well, yeah,
the word
course,
static is not an hydrostatic.
Yeah, as soon as he hears a question, the start of a question, Chocolate, triggers him to talk indefinitely. As soon as he hears what he suspects is the start of a question, that means rumpus time. He's going to talk indefinitely, so no question can be delivered to him, because from this moment on, all questions will be devastating. So if he suspects that, is static not moving, Kosho? Oh yeah,
Nathan,
that's false dichotomy. See, there it is. All I was trying to do is trigger his interruption, just for the audience's benefit. Shut him down. All I was doing in that example was trying to trigger the interruption that did come. So true to form, I know precisely how to trigger the interruption and the fundy mute button that will ensue as soon as a devastating point is coming his way. So static's not moving. Kosho's answer to that was that it was a false dichotomy. And upon trying to summarise, him being smashed, it's time for fundy mute button. Talk through the devastating conclusion that you're a stupid idiot who doesn't understand how gas behaves and tries to use a false equivalence fallacy to describe something that's moving at high speed in all directions as behaving like a static fluid. It's not. It's a false equivalence fallacy, not us using a false dichotomy like you did earlier with your two models.
Can I read
Hey,
a
Nathan,
line
I'll
from
pay you
his
$2,000
citation?
if you can find in that a reference, as you say, anywhere where it describes anything as being static. When that, and you can't invoke the title hydrostatic equilibrium. Just because it's called hydrostatic equilibrium doesn't do a fluid that's static, Nathan.
So it's like him asking me, right? It's like going to the horse races, titled horse races, and him saying, how did I in any way imply that there would be horses here? You can't take the title horse races to imply that there's going to be a horse here. How dare you? Yeah, hydrostatic equilibrium. I can't use the title to debunk you.
You think a camel spider is a camel, Nathan?
Right, what is
You
this?
think that just because something's in the title
Oh, shut up. You're a moron. All you're going to do is now rumpus the shit out of us laughing at you for claiming that you can't use the very nature of what you're describing, hydrostatic equilibrium, as the debunking of the fact that it isn't static, because it doesn't imply static in the fucking title, static. Yeah, it does, moron. You're just stupid and don't understand how gas behaves. So your stupidity isn't your opportunity to constantly mute everybody, summarising just how stupid you actually are. You are stupid. We're going to tell you. You're also a liar and a scumbag. You're a liar. You're stupid. You're ignorant. You don't understand how gas behaves. And you're an outright liar. So you thinking that it's your opportunity every time that's summarised, talk through everybody, isn't the case. You're a scumbag. You deserve no respect, Kosho. None.
Can I ask Kosho a question? Read it to your audience and teach them something then.
Kosho, I want to remind you of two of your own quotes, okay? At the beginning, you said, turn to page 1. Basic ideas. What is an idea? A concept. And then later, you said, oh, everybody, look up hydrostatic pressure, blah, blah, blah. You'll learn more from that than you will from Nathan. No, you won't. Nathan's not a concept, you idiot.
I just want to remind everybody.
So that made no sense whatsoever.
I just want to remind everyone.
If anybody
you said basic ideas. An idea is a concept. We don't learn anything from a concept.
Yep. Hydrostatic equilibrium is the concept that we're talking about.
Sure, yeah, with 30 people talking, go ahead and ask
especially people listening to this conversation currently and thinking that they're learning something from this.
Ocho, your original claim was that gas was being held down by its own weight inside a vacuum, and your backing of this was hydrostatic pressure. Now we all know. Well, see, we didn't even get back to that claim yet, that they had gas pressure inside a vacuum.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're talking about.
That's what your claim, though, wasn't it? Your original claim was that the weight of the gas was holding it down. Was keeping it in place, yeah?
That's exactly what hydrostatic equilibrium is, man.
No.
That's what I'm saying. If you just listen or hold up yourself.
Gas plasma that's inside in that. That's not gas. And gas
yes,
can't
it
have
is,
hydrostatic
man.
pressure.
Listen to me. Just look it up yourself. Honestly, there's no other way to say it.
All he's doing, Brian, what's happening is you're trying to make a coherent point. And his response to that is to continue to say things like, people can just go and look it up. Just go and look up what hydrostatic pressure is. People can just go and see what it is for themselves, while you're trying to make a coherent point. So what he's doing is he's making damn sure that your point is not heard by using the fundy mute button continually while you try and speak to him. Every time you pause for breath, he uses that as his opportunity to jump in and justify it because you've paused for a half a beat.
Yes.
You scroll down in that reference.
Kosho, that means shut up. Kosho, Brian's... Hold on, Chocolate, you're making matters worse. Chocolate. Kosho, that wasn't your invitation to start talking again. You're getting obliterated and Brian's trying to make a point.
Just telling your audience to do this.
That's, yet again, he's done it to me. So, middle of me trying to tell him, no, Brian's trying to make a point, and literally in that beat that I miss, he starts talking. No, I'm telling you to shut up and let Brian talk unimpeded without using your fundy mute button continually. We know you're getting battered to all hell, but that doesn't mean you interrupt every single time someone tries to make a point that lasts more than half a second. I appreciate that you feel it's always your turn to talk, and while I'm talking now, you're interrupting me. Shut up, let Brian make his point, Kosho.
Thank you, Nathan. Kosho's original claim was that there was gas being held down by its own weight within a vacuum. Now, that's actually not gas, that's actually plasma. It's held there by electromagnetism. But his backing of his claim was that it was the gas's own weight that was holding it there, and that gas had weight. And the proof of this was hydrostatic pressure. Now, he was absolutely proven wrong that gas can have hydrostatic pressure because it's a compressible fluid, and only incompressible fluids, which liquids, can have hydrostatic pressure. So he was proven completely wrong on the proof, completely wrong on the backing of his original claim. And his original claim was wrong. Everything he's after saying is wrong. Gas does not have a linear downward weight. It cannot have hydrostatic pressure. It is constantly moving, so it needs to be static. to have that hydrostatic pressure happen. And his original
So do
claim
you see
of
why in
He hasn't
gas
finished.
was wrong,
Kosho's muting you again, Brian. Brian,
I addressed.
I can't believe he's just done that. The conclusion's coming, and Kosho's decided, because it's a summary of him being smashed, that he's going to fundy mute you. So he started talking through you, Brian. He's still talking through you now, while I'm summarising to the audience that he's fundy muted you. So it's just totally unreasonable. You're making a point. The point is he's been smashed, and he doesn't like it, so he's going to stop that reaching the audience. This is what he's doing.
Like, you're gonna piss me the fuck off, Nathan.
You can. Oh, really? Oh, really, Kosho? Share your pain.
Wow, Kosho triggered.
Wow,
Kosho is really angry now.
You know what I'm saying, Nathan. You know it.
Yeah, I'd be angry too.
Kosho, it's a bad week for you, huh?
Shit, and they're gonna leave here confused as fuck.
You just stayed in hibernation, man.
Yeah, go and have a cup of cocoa. Go and have a cup of cocoa, worship at your altar of globe, and everything could be fine.
Go fuck yourself, Nathan.
Hey, man. Hey, Kosho. Hey, do you want to criticise one of my old jobs?
What's a fluid?
Do you want to criticise one of my old jobs, maybe? Got me a grocery delivery boy if you want.
Answer, Nathan. See if you got balls to answer this.
Kosho, I've been trying to ask you a question for the last 20 minutes. We're trying to ask him a question for 20 minutes.
Go on,
just one simple question.
Go on.
Is gas ever in equilibrium?
What are you asking?
Is gas ever in equilibrium?
These systems can be, yeah. Like I said, the sun, the atmosphere, yeah.
You think the atmosphere is in equilibrium?
That's what hydrostatic equilibrium is explaining. That's
it's
exactly
gas.
what I'm trying to express to you guys. You don't have to be in the middle of the second part of the description. That's why half of you guys think it only applies to compressible liquids.
That's what it said.
He went and tested the sun on us.
That's what it said.
He went and physically tested the sun.
Sorry, he's just now lying again. Can somebody on the panel please read out the citation where it actually specifically states that? Because now he's saying, you guys are just saying it only applies to an incompressible liquid. Well, no, that's what you read out. It was the thing that you spent 10 minutes obfuscating and didn't want to read out. And then when you started explaining what you wouldn't read out, you didn't cite it. Then when asked to cite it, you said you had cited it when you gave a reference, having clarified that it was a citation when it wasn't. You lied. So all this obfuscation has led to the citation being a specific description of an incompressible liquid. And now you're saying we're saying it only applies to that? That's what you read out from your cited source. Now I can now understand. I can now understand why you'd want to fundy mute this bit, because that's why you needed to obfuscate and lie about it, because it undid your own argument. And the conclusion, of course, means you're going to talk through me, because that you can detect. You can detect that we're summarising how you've been smashed, how your own citation defeats your own argument, how you peppered it and lied by omission and fundy muted the conclusion every time. Fundy mute time, isn't it, Kosho? Yeah, you lied by omission. You stopped reading your citation so that the audience wouldn't hear the bit that destroyed your argument. You also didn't want to read it at all and claimed you'd cited it when you were going to describe something. So you're an outright deceptive liar. Proven liar on this very show, and all you can do is fundy mute non-stop.
Keep going on about it. Keep going on about it, because this is exactly what you want your audience to hear.
No, Kosho, you're referencing one guy acting like you have a pile of gold.
Here's the sentence, guy.
You're referencing one guy talking about
it's a concept. Not your turn, buddy.
So you can hear that this guy's got a point to make, so he's doing a rumpus. Here's the sentence, here's the sentence, here's the sentence. He can detect that the guy on the panel has got a concise, coherent point that will demolish Kosho. So the only name of the game for Kosho from this point on is cause total and utter confusion in the Discord server and don't let anybody talk. That way, any coherent demolition of his position won't be heard. That's all he's ever going to do. Because that way, he won't have to answer a question that's devastating. He won't have to admit that his citation was lied about. He won't have to admit that he didn't want to read it because it undid his own argument. All of those things
Nathan,
won't be necessary.
Stop me after 4 words.
Yeah, and then moan that I've stopped them talking. moan that the conclusion that they're talking through is actually them
Nathan?
talking when they interrupted it, like Unorthodox did yesterday? Middle of a conclusion, he starts talking and starts bleating about how he only had 4 words, just like Kosho's doing. This is the tactic. That's all they've got.
Okay. Do you mind if I read another line that was not read before by Kosho
Yeah,
from his own citation?
Sure, absolutely.
Section named "The Real Atmosphere." Hydrostatic equilibrium is a little more complicated to apply to air because air is very compressible. The same principle still applies, but we now have to deal with a density that varies with pressure and temperature. That's from Kosho's citation, or reference, I should say.
Exactly the fucking part I was reading to you.
That absolutely
So now do you understand? It
undoes
doesn't
your
only apply to
argument.
liquid, right? It
Absolutely.
doesn't only apply to non-compressible liquids. It applies to compressible gas.
Your citation just said that air is very compressible.
Yes, that's right.
You get that?
And what does it say at the end of that fucking
yes.
sentence? Wow. The same principle still applies.
What I'd like to know is
Really?
what Kosho's original argument was in the first place.
But he doesn't even understand the contradiction.
Hold on, Arwen.
When
Sorry,
it's right
hold on.
It's not a
just 1 second.
contradiction, Arwen, when it says the same principle.
That was me trying to get a word in, but it's Kosho's time. So he's saying that it says the principle still applies. Is he just lying?
Or he just completely misunderstands
No.
what he's even
Does it
looking
say
at.
that? I'm asking Chocolate. Have you missed a bit off the end, Chocolate, where it says that gas is actually highly compressible, but the same principle applies? Does it say that?
Yes. Yeah, it says
For
that.
fuck's
You want me to
sake,
read it again?
Nathan.
So can we have
It
the
says,
full citation?
hydrostatic equilibrium is a little more complicated to apply to air because air is very compressible. The same principle still applies, but we now have to deal with a density that varies with pressure and temperature.
He just contradicted himself. Andrew Thomas Young should stick with fucking up refraction rather than going into hydrostatic pressure. He's a fucking moron. I can settle this easily.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, he thinks gas is on equilibrium, so.
Go ahead, QE.
I'm doing like 25 things at one time. Hold on 1 second.
You guys all look like fucking idiots.
Shut
and I say
up.
today.
Shut up. I'm going to share my screen 1 second. I got to find you.
Again, Coach, you're referencing a concept, so nobody looks like idiots. It's a concept.
Unbelievable.
It's not real until you try to it can't be real, but you can try to reify it into reality, and that's what you're doing. It's a concept that you presented. It's not a pile of gold, but you're hyping it up like it is.
Give me a second, Nathan.
Crap.
No worries. Take your
Sorry
time.
about that. Sorry about that. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
From Lumen Learning, hydrostatic pressure. This is what we're talking about, right? Hydrostatic pressure refers to the pressure exerted by a fluid. Now it has gas or liquid in parentheses at any point in space within that fluid. Here comes the rub. Assuming that the fluid is incompressible and at rest. So there's 2 conditions here to invoke hydrostatic pressure. The fluid must be incompressible and at rest. Gases are compressible and never at rest. That's it.
Bingo.
Rest in peace, Kosho.
My word. You don't know what you're reading is the problem. Kosho, your friggin' hurricanes aren't in the sky.
your roboting, but fortunately we did get the point in regards to hydrostatic equilibrium. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley promoting stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!